Cosmetology Qualifications Rules Advisory Committee is meeting at 9:36 a.m. on Wednesday, March 18th, 2026. This meeting is being held in person and through video conference and is being recorded. The recording will be hosted to the internet for public viewing. I will now call roll. Amantha?
Present.
Angelica? Brianna?
Here.
Elizabeth?
Here.
Jen? Jennifer? Baldwin? Jessica?
Here.
Julie?
Here.
Kaylina?
Here.
Kat?
No.
Kat today. Carrie?
Yes, here.
Lindsay? Pamela?
Here.
Ray?
Here.
Tammy? Here. Teresa?
Here.
Kaite?
Here.
Noel? Carmela? Yes, Zena? That's wrong. Yesenia? Michelle? Here. Margaret?
Here.
Cindy? Here. Katie? Kate, I'm sorry. Megan?
Here.
Brianna, Brittany Mosley. Members, when wish to speak, please state your first name for the record. Committee members are asked to not use the chat feature during meetings. The health licensing office asks that individuals attending through Zoom keep their phones muted and cameras off during the entire meeting or until they are given an opportunity to comment during the public and interested parties feedback period, if indicated on the agenda. Public comment is limited to matters listed on the meeting agenda or topics relevant to what the committee has the authority to regulate. Public members wishing to speak, please sign in on the roster sheet in the back of the room or email Josh Page at josh.page@oha.oregon.gov and provide their first and last name. Everyone is asked to use appropriate language, manners, and protocols when conducting committee business. This meeting is now called to order. Well, hello, everyone. Nice to see you. It's been a month. We've been very busy, and I'm sure everybody has been. Just a couple things. Let's try, and I'm not the worst culprit, say our name top, kind of talk over each other. Josh, make sure that we're paying attention to people raising their hands on the thing, because I'll never am watching that. Did everybody get their documents? I was talking about them on Sunday. I wanted to get them out earlier, but that didn't happen, so Sunday it was. The agenda is kind of broken up into two parts. We're gonna go over the rules, and here's our hope. Me and Derek were in charge of the rule. That the rules, we're gonna finalize them, the hours that you guys went through last week, making sure that barbering program looks good, and then so we can duplicate it for each other field of practice. Looking at the application requirements for the provisional certificate. And then when you go to get a real license, what that pathway looks like in the rule. And then the renewal piece and then the fees. So within the rule, you'll see I put text box where I'm like, I don't know the answer here. I need an answer, or maybe it was a question that you guys had asked. And so I put it in a text box so you could see it within the document. So that's why those are there. Unless anyone's opposed, we'll just kind of jump right in. And everyone's okay with that. And the second part would be looking at the forms that would go with the rules. So basically when you apply for a license, get an application, so that the rule should match the application, and that's what you'll see today. So that's kind of the hope, as we get that foundational piece done, and then we can move forward with the other fields of practice. That is the plan. Okay, so just starting with definitions. We've got the direct supervision, which is immediately accessible and in view of the practical procedure, so right next to the person. Which, if that's not right, you guys just call it out. Page 11. Big page numbers at the top.
I got it. I'm there. I'm with you.
People online, did you get the documents from Josh yesterday with the giant page numbers at the top?
Yes.
Okay, good. So page 11. Direct supervision is inside, you're right next to the person. And then on page 12 at the bottom is indirect supervision, which is basically in the building. Yeah. Residents not required to be in view of the procedure on providing indirect supervision, but must be inside. And then provisional certificate is just exactly what it says in the statute, so no reason to mess with that one. And that's all the definitions I have now, but as we go through rules, you never know, you might need other ones. And so we'll kind of, and you can usually feel it as you're going through, I'm like, oh, we've used that word a lot. We might need to just define that somewhere. Sometimes we define a word in a rule, there's all kinds of ways. So, and I'll point those out as we go. On page 17, this is just in the wrong spot, so I'm moving it. Okay. And then on top of page 18, this is the barbering program. So this is after all of your guys come on the last meeting and kind of taking them and putting them in the rule. Bold means it's a brand new rule. And purple is kind of, we did titles. So to kind of break it up a little bit, so it gets to be a long rule. So the first one is just telling you that the board has adopted the January 1st, 27 provisional certificate barber training program, which outlines the education, instruction, and training requirements for a professional certificate holder must complete to qualify for a practitioner certificate in barbering. And then number 2 is training program. So this is going to break down the hours. So the 196 hours of theory instruction, 590 hours of supervised practical experience, which must include 465 practical procedures. And then it breaks down the theory hours. And if you go to the top mid of page 19, little I, foundation and fundamentals of barbering, we added that. Page 19, little I, so the third one down. Oh, sorry. And then we added the safety, sanitation, and infection control. Any questions about that? So on number 4, the theory portion of the training must be taught by a supervisor with a rule or through a structured learning program, including but not limited to in-person or online learning. Derek and I talked a little bit about this. Should we define structured learning program? And it's like, when you do that, then you start getting into, yeah, you don't have enough things, so then you forget something. So that program's not going to work. So I think leaving it, if they want to do a lady program, they could do that. If they want to put up point, they can do that. Something else they want to do. So that theory can be taught either by the supervisor or they can do something more structured if they want. Like the Milady theory, an online tool.
So both of those though are they have the same information as what is going to be like on the state board test, right?
Yes.
Tammy, this is Tammy. The tests are supposed to be sourced through Milady and Pivot Point, so the answer would be yes.
Yes.
They should be both.
And Eric and I talked about that as well. So kind of, this is Sammy, kind of a missing piece, but I mean, it's always there. Is when you look at curriculum, you don't really see in there that, oh, hey, by the way, the test is sourced through these, you should probably teach through these books. So in the documentation, he's added that these are the books that are used for the test. So these be the ones you want to learn from. So kind of giving them a heads up.
And would this be something that we would have to supply for everyone going through this program?
Yeah, they would have to buy it. Who is that?
This is Megan, sorry.
Thank you.
Pam, this number 4 is a bit vague. So my understanding is that Pivot Point and Milady are the 2 sources that are okayed by the state. Those are the only 2 sources. So they don't have a requirement on any, they can use whatever they want.
But what is important is that this is Sammy, source the exam from those 2 books. So if they choose to learn from something else, that's not, they can do that, which they probably can find the information. But for absolute sure, our exam has been sourced from Pivot Point and Milady. So the obvious is you should probably use one of those 2 books, but it isn't required.
Pam again, so in the theory portion of their education, this is all that you have as far as a requirement for them? You don't have any exams or we talked last time about before they could go on and do practical, they have to pass the theory part of it to make sure that they're,
Well, we haven't got that far.
okay, so it's gonna be in maybe
It's
later?
5.
Okay,
So number 4 is the theory portion of the training must be taught by a leader. The provisional certificate holder may not begin performing practical procedures until the supervisor determines the provisional certificate holder submit all the competencies through theory instruction for the practical procedure. For example, provisional certificate holder has completed the theory portion of learning a facial, and the supervisor determines that provisional certificate holder is competent. Provisional certificate holder, oh my gosh, that's a lot of times, can begin performing facials.
Okay, excuse me, can I, questions, that kind of stuff? We're raising our hands, but are we able to just, kind of like speak through this? I don't mean to interrupt you, Sammy.
Say your name.
Carrie Weed.
Well, sure. Good.
Okay, so we're open to have these conversations, correct? So I do agree with going back to that. Are we discussing later that piece of that theory? Because Pam does bring up a very good point. It's super vague. So does the supervisor just give the student a book and say, here, read this?
Good.
That's how it's it's just super vague. So are we doing any sort of like verification, curriculum? Are we discussing that now or later? Or?
It tells them in number 3 that they need 22 hours of anatomy and physiology, 16 hours of microbiology, 5 hours of implements, tools, and equipment. So it's outlined how many hours they need in each of these areas of theory.
So being super vague, it like they could just literally hand them a book and say, go home and read this. Like,
What would you want it to say?
how is it tracked? What are the parameters? Like exactly this is, you know, in a book, there's no exams. When you do curriculum, you've got software and tests and worksheets and, verification that they're comprehending the information. So that it just says they have to do these hours. Where's the verification that they understand this information?
This is Sandy here. The cosmetology current curriculum for schools is bigger than this. This is more specific than what the curriculum is for cosmetology currently.
Harry, Derek's got his hand up. He might be able to tell you because I know he's made forms that will be looked at later.
Yeah.
So Derek,
Yeah, hi everybody. This is Derek Foltz. Sorry I can't be there in person. But yes, Carrie, when we go over the forms, there will be that information in a lot more detail. There will be essentially like a structured guide outlining what they should be learning, as well as forms that you can document that on.
Okay,
Thank you,
Carrie,
Derek.
this is Carrie. That's fantastic. Thank you. I just didn't know if we were discussing that later or if it was. So thank you very much for that clarification that there is going to be some structure to it and that it's a topics that we'll go over and see in the future. Okay, thank you for that.
It starts on page 46 of your materials. You want to start with each.
I take that hand up for a minute too.
Go ahead.
Akaite and then Tammy.
No, I was just going to, oh, Ekaite here. I was just going to see if you could share the page on here, so we can all be on the same page, but that's okay if we have it. If people just know where to follow along, so we know what we're talking about. And if somebody is pointing out a material in the packet, perhaps just say what page so that we can all know where you're referencing. Thank you.
No, she was not talking about you specifically.
Yes.
Thanks, Akate. Tammy.
This is Tammy Kennedy. What just came to my mind is we do in our curriculum in the schools, we do have all this stuff lined out, how many hours you have to do for each thing. That is part of what we got improved through HEC. But what I'm thinking is we are doing something outside of the school box. So it is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a little bit more flexible. I think the online is a great resource, but if somebody's not wanting to do it, because you have to pay for the online. So if somebody's not willing to do that, but at the end of the day, the proof is in the pudding. If they don't learn the information out of a Milady or a Pivot Point book, they will not pass. So I think that those things will come, they're going to come in. It's all going to come in and people are going to figure this out. And it is outside the box. And for us people who are in a school every day, all day, that is harder to think about. I remember feeling very panicked on day one, but I don't feel that anymore. So I think that, there's, that's just my opinion. Take it forward.
Christy, is there anybody else with their hand up?
No.
Can you let me in? Just, thank you. Hello.
Should it be put in there at all? This is Megan, sorry. That like all like or most of or a certain number of hours for that theory has to be with direct supervision.
This is Carrie. I don't think that it needs to be like direct supervision to do the academic theory portion of it. I just think maybe some verbiage that says something about, verified or, this theory that it's verified and oh, I'm moving around.
Thank you. This is Pam. My thought is, what about having a phase 1 and phase 2? And so phase 1 would be the theory portion of their education that we all know in large part they're going to be doing pretty much on their own, at home, in the salon, wherever. But the provisional certificate holder will be working on the theory portion pretty much on their own. And then the supervisor would say, okay, yeah, you're ready for the next phase. So what about having phase 1 in theory, and then they would have, I don't know if it's an exam or a reference point, and then go into phase 2 where they can get the more indirect supervision. But in phase 1, they need to have direct supervision while they're on the salon floor. possibly something written about that. I know we talked about that last month, but I'm not sure where we ended with it.
So this is Sammy. Maybe I'm confused, but that's entirely possible. So the theory, it's my understanding is like you get a book, you're gonna learn about anatomy and physiology, you talk to your professor, whatever, you guys are gonna, there won't be any, you know, hands-on stuff with a client in that situation. And that generally comes first. I'm trying.
But they, excuse me, Pam again, but they could be doing shampoos and treatments and things like that, right off the bat. I mean, if they get through the initial, you know, few hours of safety and sanitation, the goal is with provisional is you want them up and work running fairly quickly. And so they should be doing at least shampoos and assisting with the supervisor.
So things are gonna be happening simultaneously.
Yes, yes.
How would
Because-
you want a phasing to operate?
How would
How would you want to phase a two-phase approach to operate?
well, if we had the basics, safety and sanitation, anatomy, and hair structure, those three things down first, the person would need to learn that initially. Then that's gonna open them up for the ability to be able to do some of the other stuff. Tools and implements, you know, chemistry, most schools have an initiation or a beginning part of their education where they get the basics in. History, chemistry, electricity, anatomy, those things, if they got that first.
Kat has her hand up.
So so you said anatomy and physiology.
So safety, sanitation for sure, anatomy, physiology, microbiology. Chemistry, electricity. And if you want to throw in Oregon law in there, you could, but that's
Are
gonna,
you reading something?
I'm looking at page 18 and
History and art.
pardon me?
So I see product knowledge and chemistry.
So the implements, tools and equipment, you have electricity in there somewhere, safety for electricity?
I mean, that's just, you know, an over.
Yeah, so however you want to label, color that, but that's something that we have identified in our education. Is electrical safety is one of the classes that we teach. Which is a chapter in the lady. So
This, Tina. In the schools, you guys require that before they're shampooing?
they do orientation before they shampoo, yes.
What is an orientation?
Yeah.
Does every school do an orientation or just you?
This is Tammy. My classroom runs on open enrollment. So when one graduates, another one pops in. So there are people that are different levels in different areas. We don't sit, a lot of schools do freshman class and they don't move until they're done with freshman class. They don't touch a client. That's not how we can run it in where I am. So we do it differently. Every school can do it different. This can be different because it's a different environment. I think that expecting them to learn all of that before they do a client won't happen. It won't happen. It won't be able to happen that way because there's not structured freshman classes and then where you move in. Do they need a shampooing class? Do they need basic safety sani? Yes, so they do need those things, but they don't need,
Simultaneous.
it can happen together. A hair color application class and basic hair color before theory, before they start slapping bleach on somebody, yes. But all that's not gonna happen. In my mind, that's not all gonna happen before this is happening. It's gonna be kind of simultaneous.
So, sorry, Pam, again, so we're okay with just letting somebody come off the street and start touching clients without having any formal education of some kind.
The supervisor, who's a supervisor.
Yeah, This is Tina.
Yeah.
First of all, I don't think anybody that owns a facility is going to allow clients coming in and they're just putting somebody out there. It's their name, it's their facility,
And they're
they're
responsible.
responsible. I don't foresee that.
So we do, Pam, again, we do have salons, and in large part in the nail industry, that are doing some human trafficking, and they absolutely are letting people in without training them in any way, shape, or form. And you guys know about that. So that's why my desire is to keep the program, to maintain the integrity of our industry. If we don't have clarifications in some of these areas, it is going to become a problem.
Kat, and then Carrie,
Yeah.
and then Tina. Wait, Kat, Carrie, Tina, and Kai.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, I'm not sure what her name was with the dark hair, but she does make a good point that we do already have issues with people coming in and just kind of doing whatever. But I just want to confirm, would this be under the liability insurance of the salon? Like, this person's not going to have their own liability insurance, correct?
Liability, this is Sammy, isn't required
Okay.
under state board statutes and rules, so whatever the business has or a provider.
So for aesthetics, I feel like we've, the focus, or at least the conversation I've heard has been on hair, but I'm assuming this still includes aesthetics. And my concern is for liability insurance for estheticians, it follows the esthetician, not the business. So that would be one concern, is an esthetician must carry their own personal liability, like practice insurance. I'm not sure how hair works. So this person, let's say I'm mentoring them, they couldn't use my liability insurance if they hurt someone, and the client couldn't use my liability insurance if they hurt somebody.
You can't get liability insurance unless you have a license.
Exactly.
So it's gonna be, this is Tina, so it's gonna be, that individual is gonna have to know that that supervisor is gonna be directly involved in watching what's happening.
So I don't think my insurance policy, I mean, I would have to ask them, but unless it's me doing the procedure, doing the service, even if I'm there watching, they are not going to cover somebody else. It's solely me. So every employee must have their own liability insurance. They cannot use mine, tap into mine, even if I'm supervising, managing, training, it doesn't matter. And obviously I have business insurance, but that does not cover when I'm doing services. That's like if the building burns down or et cetera. So that is probably just from an insurance perspective. It's what I used to do for work. My biggest concern is, how do we protect the clients if they can just come in and start assisting, even if it's just a hair wash or cleansing the face. Accidents happen, mistakes happen. So how do we protect the client that they can, if they get injured, they can get compensation? And then how do we protect this student as well, that if they make a mistake, they are covered?
This is Sammy. So at this point, statute that says nothing about requiring liability insurance, professional liability insurance, malpractice, anything.
Okay.
So with this arena, there's really nothing we can do.
Okay. I think that plays into whether or not they can come in, though, and then just start touching clients.
Well, I think that will be a choice for the supervisor to make.
Does that protect the community, though, if they could potentially be injured without compensation?
That's not something that we can, statute doesn't let us. I mean, they can file a complaint for sure.
Okay. Thank you.
So there's no law requiring it, so we can't hold anyone accountable to have it, to provide it, or for someone to be able to use it to get money from somebody if they're hurt. It's just, we don't have that in our statute.
But they could file a complaint if there was a student maybe doing something that they weren't prepared to do and injuring people. That would be their course. Okay.
And there are some, at least one that I know of, that will insure students or trainees.
Oh, perfect.
That information.
Okay, thank you.
We had Kat and then Carrie and then Tina and then Akaite, Tammy,
Thoughts going in
Jessica,
the correct
Megan.
order, but
What?
the Kaite should be second after cat.
Well, we're going in the order that I said earlier.
This is Carrie. I'm just going to speak up. So this is a huge topic to be brought up, Kat. Thank you for this, because this whole piece of liability and the statement there nothing organ health licensing can do, that's the problem, is that this can come back and sorry to say, be detrimental, because the aesthetics piece is such a huge point, but you think about things like chemical burns. And I know this for a fact because a client, a guest that a student was working on, went to the emergency room with chemical burns on their head. We get a phone call and we're liable for it. So in that case, is the student or the supervisor liable for it? And then what happens is if the supervisor gets sued or the student gets sued, it can come back to the state because of this exact statement that says there's nothing Oregon Health Licensing can do. I
No,
think
this
that
is- they can do. There's no authority in the statute. We run on laws. The Board of Cosmetology and its practitioners can only do what the law allows us to do.
as
And
I'm going to say, though, that it should be probably written somewhere that insurance is required or something like that.
But it's
Harry,
not.
it would take a legislative change, which we can't do here.
So can we put it in guidelines for something like this? I mean, recommended or something that it's addressed?
Legislator and ask them to do it, for sure. Absolutely. And I can give you the process on how to do that. But today, for what the work we're doing today, is we can't really, we can talk about it, but there's literally nothing that can be done in, it's not, it's
Okay.
just, not-
Okay, then I'm just moving on from it. I just want to bring up the point that it's a huge liability. But to go back to why I raised my hand originally is under number 4 that we were speaking of, the theory portion of the training must be taught by a supervisor approved under blah, blah, or through structured learning program, including but not limited to in-person or online. Can we just add in and verified for competency? Because I think just adding that little piece would then say, okay, well, let's verify that you've taken exams, that you verified that you understand the theory portion of it. I think that might be general enough to confirm they know the information, but is less about like checks and balances and that kind of stuff.
this is Sammy, who's verifying it and what does that mean?
Shouldn't the supervisor be verifying it?
That's
That's their job, right?
They're
The
checking.
supervisor should be verifying that this student understands the theory.
Right, so the paperwork after page 46, I think once you see that, that is all there.
I just thought adding that little bit of verbiage into number 4 would be a nice touch.
Okay. Does everybody else agree with that?
Yes.
Here, this is Sammy, one more thing. If we put that, people are going to ask what that means. And so we need to tell them.
That it means the student understands the theory of what they're doing prior to doing it.
I mean, under number 5, it says you don't get to do anything until you've met all the competencies through theory instruction for practical procedure.
As an example.
So number 5 is saying exactly that. And it gives you an example because it's kind of confusing for me.
Okay, I was just giving a suggestion, but if you, thank you.
I think it's there. Did you read number 5? A provisional certificate holder may not begin performing practical procedures till the supervisor determines the provisional certificate holder has met all competencies through theory instruction for the practical procedure.
This is Megan. Yeah, I think it says enough there to where we don't need to necessarily add that extra information that says the same thing, just to make it less confusing, even though all of that information is still there. It still says that, it's just not in that specific spot.
Okay.
Yes. I almost forgot what we were even talking about because I think we moved away. However, I wanted to speak to Pam's point earlier. Pam, I think that you do have a good idea about structuring it in a way where we can assign theory and practical aspect of it and kind of keep track that way. But it sounds already that the form is going to have that. So I think that we can go on about back and forth about it. But until we see that form, maybe we can table that discussion, look at the form and see how we can improve upon that form. And then the other thing that I was going to mention on that Carrie sort of brought up was that my understanding is that schools do have students do practical, the practical aspect on people walking through the door. I would assume that there is some sort of errors and omissions, something out there that would cover those students. And I do think that, it is something that is up to the supervisor who is interested in doing this to go that extra mile to see how to protect not just themselves, but the person that they're taking under their wing. So maybe we could, I don't know how we could do that, but maybe encourage people if that's a big sticking point. But I also want to caution everyone, as a state agency, a board or a commission, whatever, you are only allowed to do what the statute give you the authority to do. So we could sit here and say, do this, do that, do this. The line is already drawn, and there's nothing you can do to step over it unless you go the act of Congress, really. You have to go through procedures to get those things implemented. I understand the frustration. It seems like an easy, just put this in there or put that in there. It's really, but that's the nature of the work that we do as boards or agencies. We have to do only that which we are giving the authority to do. But with that being said, maybe there's a way we can walk around things to make it more clear. But sometimes when you make rules too clear, it raises question, and now you're setting limitations. There is a point for it being vague. Then you have flexibility to make improvement later on. I hope that makes sense.
This is Megan. I'm wondering if maybe there is some kind of form that we can have people, kind of fill out or sign so that they at least have to be aware that they are being worked on by someone that does not have a valid license yet, someone that is still in training.
This is Jessica. I've had my hand up for a little bit. I guess my quick question, I just want to ask, do we already have a program in play for tattooing, correct? They're apprentice, they don't go to school. They have to do apprentice. Is there checks and balances for the tattooing school? And I imagine that they have to have some sort of insurance to be able to put a needle on to someone. Is there checks and balances there? I mean, is that the same route we can go for this, or?
This is Sammy. We basically picked up what body piercing does and electrology and massaged it to fit our brain.
Yeah, perfect.
In both the rules and the forms. Two suggestions that kind of go with all of this information. No, I wouldn't suggest these two things, but they are in other sets of rules. One is, have all the theory hours must be completed before practical procedures are performed. And training must be completed in no less than a certain amount of time. So those are two things where you can stick people in a box and say, you aren't going to move forward until X happens. Those are two options that we do have in the body procedures. I wouldn't suggest them, but they're there.
This is Pamela. In other states, they use a 40-hour prerequisite for so-called phase one to get through the theory hours. That could be a potential. And then the other thing is signage and badges. If you have a provisional certificate holder in a salon, if you have a sign that says we support apprenticeship training, and then the person that is the provisional certificate holder says, I am a provisional certificate holder, that would show the public that they are in training, and then they could decide whether they want to use them or not. Because that was a point somebody brought up earlier. How do we identify somebody that is a license holder versus a provisional license holder? And that would be an easy way to navigate that.
That is better in the.
No, I was yeah, okay, I'm on mute. No, I was going to say something before Sammy did. I was going to say, what if we set aside and say you cannot move on until you've completed the theory, and then check that off, and then now you can apply the practical aspect of it. But I do also like what Pam said, you know, making that very clear who's under training and who's an actual licensee. I think that would also go towards the effort of keeping the public safe. But I do also want to add that, you know, the goal is to give this trainees, this, you know, whatever you want to call, the opportunity to have that practical skill. So we want to do it in such a way where we're not limiting it, but providing that. So whether that means putting a sign out to say, hey, when you come in here, you are supporting. I'm sorry. A bit under the weather, that's why I'm not in today. But to my point, Sam, I like the recommendations you've made. Pam, I think that you are onto something.
Thank you.
This is Megan. I like the idea of having at least 40 hours before you are able to do any practical work. That way you can at least cover like the microbiology and all of that, so that you can at least start shampooing, because having all the theory done is way too much. I don't think anyone's going to want to do 200 hours before they're able to do anything practical.
So 40 hours of by what?
Yeah.
If now we gotta describe it, otherwise I won't know what they're supposed to be learning.
I think this is Carrie. I think you could write foundational theory. Those, if it's 40 hours and you list it as like foundational theory, because foundations is those topics of like chemistry, electricity, infection control, that kind of stuff. That's foundation, so to speak. But Megan, you're absolutely right. Like these students will probably be working through that theory as they go, but to have 40 hours of the basic foundation theory, which would help with safety and sanitation, infection control kind of stuff.
I think you gotta be a little more specific than just.
Okay, so if we say 10 hours of safety and sanitation,
One thing, is this in addition to,
no,
or just pulling it out of?
pulling it out of. I'm throwing numbers out here. 5 hours of anatomy, maybe 10. 5 hours microbiology. What would you say? Implements, tools, 5 hours, that's 15, 25, 25, 35. We need 5 more hours and 5 of safety devices. So if we did 10 safety sanitation, 10 anatomy, 5 microbiology, 5 implements, tools, 5 product knowledge, and 5 safety standards, that could be foundational learning.
This is Megan. I love all those numbers. I'm a little bit confused on specifically product knowledge, what that does entail. But is that something that you'd be able to like look into with Milady or Pivot Point?
Yes, shampoos, conditioners, treatments, those kinds of things. Product knowledge for chemicals, basic chemical stuff.
Okay, thank you. I went to an Aveda school, so they only did specifically Aveda stuff. So I was kind of confused on what product knowledge meant all across the board.
So I have 10 hours safety and sanitation, 10 hours anatomy and physiology, 5 hours chemistry and product knowledge, 5 hours microbiology, 5 hours implements, tools and equipment, and 5 hours safety, sanitation and infection.
Yeah, that comes to 40 hours.
Does the entire 24 members agree with that? Having this 40 hours before they can start touching anyone.
Yes.
Silence, so I'm going to take this yes. Okay. So I will rework. I'll rework all of it. 5, yeah. So 5, 4, and then the theory parts, and 3. 3 bunches of paragraphs. I did not know these hours. Something else saying over here too, otherwise they're gonna start doing that. Someone tells them they're ready to go, they can do that. So now I think we're on number 6. So 465 practical procedures, and then they're broken down into 50 procedures on mannequins. And now this also said projects and it was. But then when me and Derek were looking at it, it's like, how do you count a project as a procedure? And is that actually a thing? Like, I don't know. So I wanted to ask how that. If you put projects, are they gonna know that one project is one procedure? Like, I don't know how that works.
Michelle, mental engineer, I would probably just say procedure instead of even having project in there. Because I would, just thinking about the difference in the words, I would think project.
No, we have procedure, but
Things,
like
right?
in addition to mannequins.
Oh, see, 50 procedures on mannequins.
Oh.
This is Carrie. Where are you referring to? What number are you looking at that it says projects?
Oh, it doesn't say project. I was saying that prior to this version, I was just making sure that everyone was aware, but I took it out.
Oh, okay. Okay. And then just a quick note as well too, this is Carrie. Kind of goes with the practical procedures, but as a school, we're required to put on our like service menus and documentation. And I know this is for Oregon as well as Washington, that says services performed by a student overseen by a supervisor or something like that. And that's a requirement that we put on our service menus and a sign at our front desk and that kind of stuff. So that might be something that kind of helps with that identifying piece to it. And because I think we were just talking about verification, correct? And then one other piece of verification I just wanted to mention as well is that we are required every year at our renewal time to submit our insurance verification, like our liability. So that might be something that is upheld as well too, that the supervisor submits verification Just an idea.
Michelle McWolf here, just about the liability piece. Even when I was a student, when I was at cosmetology school, every client that came in, they had to sign a waiver, and it would explain, students are working on your hair. Students and the owner is not held liable for anything that happens because you're aware that a student is doing your service. They do not have a license. There's instructors that are helping assist. So I would think that would be the same thing in this scenario, that anyone that comes in would have to maybe sign that, and that protects everyone because the client is aware of what's going on. So I would think that would just take care of everything.
Well, this is Tina. That's gonna be determined by the facility,
Person.
not us.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a great point. I think that's what's being misconcerned because if I own my own salon and it's not your responsibility for anything I do. I have to follow what you give me. And then I create, okay, I'm gonna have this person sign this and this. So we're here to do only certain things. So those individuals have to come up with, okay, am I gonna have this? Yeah, so I think that's where we're kind of getting.
So this is Sammy. I've heard, just want to go over what I've heard. Just a flat out disclosure to all clients that somebody is a provisional certificate holder. Wear a name tag that says they're a provisional certificate holder. Have signs at the front desk and on the menus, and then sign a waiver for those 4 things.
Kat?
Hi, sorry, my dogs are barking. I just wanted to add that waivers are great. I've done over 10 years of litigation for defense. A waiver doesn't waive liability. While it's a great thing to have and it's kind of another safety measure, negligence is still negligence, so it doesn't actually protect you. For example, a gym, you go to the gym, you sign a waiver, but if the equipment is faulty, you can still be sued as a gym owner. But I do think having a waiver of just saying this person is a student, they are still learning, but you can't waive liability as an owner.
This is Megan. Yeah, I think just having something visible in the salon stating that someone, yeah, is not, like I said, is not licensed yet, is holding a provisional certificate would be good.
Pam Pacheco, so the Oregon Health Licensing has a description of what a provisional certificate holder is, correct? Okay, so if you have on your signage that a person is a provisional certificate holder, and then you put the statute underneath it, if somebody draws a question about that, they could go to that area for reference. So that would be something that Oregon Health Licensing can define this, the owner has it defined on the signage, and everybody knows where they can get that kind of information. It's like in other trades. They have their license number on their signage, and it makes it easy if there's a problem. So if you require salons that go into provisional certificate holder workmanship, they are required to have a sign at their front door that says they are working with provisional certificate holders. It's defined on that sign that what that means, if a person looks at it, and then the certificate holder wears the badge that says, I'm a provisional certificate holder. You can work with me or not.
Okay,
No,
hold on.
no, that's fine.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Kai.
Okay, so I understand that all the stuff about the business aspect of the facility is really important and crucial. But I really just want us to come back to the task at hand, which is drafting the requirement for this particular practice. So there are two things happening here. We've got the board, which is a regulatory board. And then you have the facility, which is a business. that business should know what they need to do to keep themselves and their people safe. So that's their responsibility. Back to the regulatory board. Where are we, Sam, with the discussion? Because I feel like we're going off track at the moment. Can we bring it back in? I'm so sorry. Can we bring it back a bit?
Number 6, practical procedures. And Carrie wanted to talk about name tags and signage, and then now we're back to number 6 again. Tim,
I'm good.
so the 50 procedures on mannequins, 150 procedures under direct supervision, and 265 under indirect supervision. Does the 40 hours need to happen before the 50 hours on mannequins? Oh, I meant, no.
I don't think it should be required to work on mannequins.
So it needs to happen before the indirect supervision procedures. Their first haircut's gonna be a real procedure.
It's gonna kind of be indirect because.
I'm just asking, this is Sammy, I'm just asking, when I write this, is it before any practical procedure on mannequins, direct, or on humans, indirect or indirect? Or is it only once you start working with humans?
Michelle, my culinary, I would agree. I would say at the time.
This is Megan. I think it should be before, procedures on humans. I think you could do mannequin work within that 40 hours that the theory would be needed.
Okay, now we're at the top of page 20. This takes down the 465 practical procedures. Hair and scalp, 20 procedures. Facial massage treatments, 20 procedures. Hair cutting, 160 procedures. Hair styling, 105 procedures. Shaving, full face and head, 40 procedures. Mustache, beard design and detail, 120 procedures. All that sound good? Looks good. Your hand is up, but it's me. Your hand is up, but it's me. Right. You're correct. Okay, so then we're mid-page 20, number 8. This is the one where it says safety, infection control, bloodborne pathogens, client consultation. All those things are integrated into the 590 hours of supervised practical experience and each of the 465 practical procedures. So just so they're aware that you're going to be doing all those things when you're doing your supervised experience and your practical procedures.
Pam Pacheco, I have a thought. What if we require the provisional certificate holder to have a bloodborne pathogen certificate before they get started working on humans? As we require other license holders. What about that?
I think that's already in the rules.
Is that in the rule that they have to have the bloodborne pathogen? I know we talked about it, but I'm not sure it's got written in.
This is Derek. Yeah, it's currently a requirement to obtain the provisional certificate.
Okay, awesome.
It's on page 25, bottom number 5.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, we're on number 9 of page 20, number 9. This is a supervision topic. The provisional certificate holder to supervisor ratio of performing practical procedures. Under direct supervision is one provisional certificate holder to one supervisor, and indirect is four provisional certificate holders to one supervisor. Very.
Yes. So what we're saying with this under number 9A is that it's 1-to-1. So the supervisor has to be one-on-one with with a student, right?
Yeah.
So they couldn't have, I think this needs to be up for discussion. I know we talked about this last time and it kind of went back and forth. I think that that is super tight. I think if you've got one supervisor that they could potentially have more than one person that they're working with.
This is Sam, you guys did go back and forth, and the first option was this, and the second option was just that a supervisor could have four people underneath them. It didn't matter which was direct or indirect. So those were the kind of two options. You guys went back and forth. Me and Derek talked about it, and we landed on this one. But you did have that other choice, which was just four people under one supervisor. It didn't matter if they were all.
If they were direct or indirect. I think that that seems more logical, more practical, is to say that it's 4-to-1 for direct and indirect.
This is Tammy, I agree, because how messy could that get? No, you gotta go sit down, I can't directly supervise you because I can only have one of you. If you have four, then you have four.
Right.
I think Phoebe, they're with them, not just in the salon, but they're with them, but all four of you could supervise four people at one time.
Yes, agreed.
I agree with that as well, only because I know in some salons it might only be one person that is offering this. So if you know, are able to have more than one person, I think most of the time it would be more direct because you are juggling a lot of people. But I think, yeah, one-on-one might be, or the requirement to have one-on-one might be just more limiting. And also, I guess just having, you can choose if you want to do more one-on-one. You don't have to take four people on if you don't feel like you can handle that.
Correct. Okay, and so then we go to number 10, which is a provisional certificate holder can have more than one supervisor. And if they have more than one supervisor, one needs to be designated as primary, which is in another set of rules. You don't have to do that. It's just an option. And then there's a text box.
This is Carrie, can you clarify that on 10? A provisional supervisor holder may have more than one?
They can have more than one supervisor. Could be me and Tina and Bob can supervise.
Oh, so you're meaning like if there's in a facility and they're in a salon, there are two stylists that are listed as supervisors. They can both. Oh, okay. I get it. Thank you. Sorry.
We already answered my text box questions. Did we? So this was a question that we never got clarified, and so two things. Number 13 is where text box actually goes with number 13, it got moved. Because you never said, do all the direct supervision procedures need to be done before the indirect? Because that is, in my mind, that's not what you guys want. Is that right?
Are they simultaneous?
Direct and indirect?
Was that one?
This is Megan. Maybe we could split that up as well, saying like 10 procedures have to be done directly before you're able to do indirect services.
I mean, we have the other rule that says, that you have to be competent and the supervisor needs to make sure you're competent before you start doing the practical procedures. And that one doesn't say direct or indirect. So 13 is kind of fighting with number 5.
And Tammy, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, this is Tammy. I was just thinking that so you have 150 procedures that need to be direct supervision, but that's over everything. So I think that they could, like, I think Megan just said, that it could happen at the same time. You show them, make sure they're competent in it, and then they can start doing it while you're still there. So if you have an issue, then you can go back and, oh, this is what we need to do. We need to work on this, this, and this. I mean, they can happen.
Yeah, they're huge. Do 5. I think it boxes you in. Doesn't give you any flexibility to make some decisions as a supervisor.
I get rid of 13.
So I think so, but that's your big committee.
I think that makes sense. We talked about it in 5. So I think that it makes
That's why I wrote
sense
down
to.
like this. These are fighting.
Yeah.
Okay, so that rule is done, and I will make the changes that you guys talked about before the next meeting. And let's just, I'm gonna just do a rundown of what those are. So the first one is, I'm gonna develop something, I don't know if we're looking at about, acknowledging that first original certificate holder is verified in this signage at the door, a name tag, something, in this rule. And that they have to do 40 hours of theory before they start working on any human beings. Then 40 hours is broken into 10 hours of safety and SAN, 10 hours of anatomy and physiology, 5 hours of chemistry, 5 microbiology, 5 implements and tools, and 5 safety and sanitation and infection. Yes, safety. Yes, safe use of devices and future regulations. I'm gonna change the ratio, that's what I'm looking for, 4 provisional certificate holders to 1 supervisor. So that gives them some flexibility. Gonna get rid of number 13 because we already have number 5, and they're gonna be doing the 40 hours before they start touching anybody. Back cover. About what we just talked about. Okay. And then on page 22, you could skip, those are placeholders for the next best practice. And then this one is, so the first, when I do a new field of practice, as I like to tell you who they are. So on page 23, number 1, original certificate holder is certified in the field of practice, may perform services in that field of practice, and then where the definition of that is. And some of these are standard boilerplate, like the provisional certificate is active for 1 year and becomes inactive on the last day of the month 1 year from the issuance. That's already in statute. And then text boxes are questions. So how many times so the statute's vague, it just says that the board can determine the renewal requirements. You can say 5, you can say nothing. You can say they can renew till the end of time.
They can renew 3 times.
They can renew 3 times. I mean, it's really up to this group to make a decision on what that looks like. If you have no time, then you could potentially have a giant loophole. Of somebody just being under supervision forever. Which, okay, but it's not really the purpose. Couple things you could, so when you limit a renewal, then you have people that, and only from experience, telling you this, somebody gets pregnant. They gotta take time off. Now what? Now they went through their time and they need another renewal, all these things could happen.
They go into dormant status.
So I've given us an option for dormant status. So I'm just giving you all of these things. So if you want to limit the number, there is opportunity for a dormant status, which is just they tell us, and when they want to reactivate, they give us the leave of. Just keeps them in the time.
This is Carrie. So I have a quick question. So what we're saying is on number 1 that they apply for their provisional certificate holder, right? Then they go to do this. So we're saying that they need to be done with their field of practice within a year.
No, so number 1 just says what they can do, who they
Okay.
are.
So then number 2, it's active for a year. So we're saying that this, say they're doing hair design, right? Or I guess we're talking barbering. So you're saying that this student, or is this after that they're getting certified? This is
Harry,
right.
this is Tina. The license is good for 1 year and then they have to renew, just like you guys have to renew for your licenses.
Okay, so this is after they've completed the program and they're licensed. They're getting licensed.
No,
They have to get this before they start. They are licensed with our office before they start learning it, before they start theory, before they start anything.
Okay, so that is correct then. So then you're saying that they apply, they do this program and then they have 1 year essentially to complete it. If they haven't completed it in a year, they have to renew?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's up for renewal. What we're trying to determine is how many times they can renew that license. Is it 3? Is it 4 times?
Okay. So just kind of thinking out loud and considering. So if somebody starts this provisional program with somebody in hair design, and then they want to add aesthetics because they're licensed as an esthetician as well too, right? So they could do multiple programs under one supervisor, then they can't get done within a year, then they renew so they could, and how many times they're looking, you're asking how many times they're looking to renew it. So total duration, right?
Correct.
Okay. Because I'm just thinking if they wanted to add multiple programs, that it could take quite a bit of time if they're, not there 5 days a week, or, say somebody's only there 2 days a week and accruing these hours 2 days a week, and they're trying to get through an 800-hour barbering program at 2 days a week.
This is Megan. I'm thinking 5 times should be good. That is, 5 years of having just a provisional certificate. So if they're not getting their license within that, 5 years of renewing it, or I guess if they I guess have it lapse, like if they didn't do it for a whole year, how would we go about that?
If they don't renew, then they become inactive, and they can be inactive for 3 years. And then once they're inactive for 3 years, they cannot reapply, so never mind.
Why couldn't they reapply if they took a break and then didn't renew for 3 years? Why couldn't they do it again? I mean, I don't know why. I understand that there's a fear of people doing clients and forever under this provision. I don't really think that's what people are gonna be trying to do. They're trying to get certified so they can go and work and make money. So I don't really know what many years of it would make sense, but I don't really understand theory behind not allowing them to renew, or if they have a baby or their mother dies and they have to take a break. I don't know. It could happen. Why would we not?
You could just let it go its natural course and you reapply. And then if you decide not to reapply, you go basically become inactive for 3 years. And you want, past that, you have to reapply again.
Right.
I mean, you could do the natural progression of a license, like any other license in HLO. Which is 1 year, well, active for 1 year, then if you let it lapse, you can have it inactive for 3, and then you are expired, and then you have to reapply. You can just let that be the thing. That's fine.
Okay, so you can reapply after that 3 years. It's just, I guess, from 3 years ago, none of that counts towards it, and you start over.
This is
Well,
Tina.
you're not licensed, not active.
So you can't, first of all, you can't earn hours unless that license is current.
Right.
So once you're not, and they didn't renew, any of those hours that they didn't renew are not going to count. So, and then when you're in school and you leave, you take a leave of absence, the school is required to have those amount of hours that you've already done, right? So if they did leave for absence, they would go back and continue on from the hours they already did.
Oh, I have this.
This is Pam.
somewhere.
That's the difference between active status, inactive status, and dormant status. Dormant status doesn't have a time limit. But to be
different than expired.
Yes.
Right, but to be active, you're pursuing. Inactive, you need to take a leave of absence or you stop the program and you go to dormant status.
You could do that, yeah, you have many options here.
Mhm.
You can renew forever. You just follow the natural progression of our licensing statute, which is active for 1 year, you become inactive, inactive 3, and then you become expired and gotta reapply. Natural progression.
Derek.
Yeah, this is Derek. I just want to let everyone know and clarify that if someone gets a barbering provisional license and decides to add additional fields of practice, they would get a separate license for that. So they wouldn't have to cram all of those hours into that 1 year barbering provisional license.
Thank you, Derek.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, so thank you.
Same.
And that's on the next page.
So they could get a license and have it for a year and get a second one added to it. Now that time starts for another 5 years on that second one. I mean, they could be just going and going.
This is Megan. So if someone signs up to do like say 3 things, because I do aesthetics, I do nail technology and hair design. Someone wanted to do all 3 of those, they would need 3 separate provisional certificates.
It's like your license,
Okay, yes, licenses. Yeah.
just like yours, our licensee.
Okay, so they would have to get separate ones though, even if they got them all at the same time and we're doing everything at the same time as far as theory and whatnot goes.
Yes.
So this is Tammy, I had a question. So are we going to let it be the progression normal, or are we gonna pick a number out of the air and just say, no, we only want to do this long? I think it just gets to be natural. I feel it, that's just me, but
I just, Pam, I support what Bob said earlier, that this could just go on and on and on. I vote to have a time limit, 3 or 5.
I do.
The very first comment when we started this subject, I thought I heard you say that, if somebody gets a provisional certificate, it could just go on and on and on and use that forever, as opposed to.
Right, so we have
Yeah.
5 renewals.
Right, so you're saying 5 renewals? I don't see a number here.
Oh,
I think a number. I'm voting personally for a number, whether it's 3 or 5, that's 6 to me, but
And I can take both options to the board, say, use.
I vote a number.
There's more issues to work out later, so be prepared, that are harder than these. Yeah, at least I think so. I'm just like, I don't know any of it.
Yeah.
Um. 3 or 5. I mean, I think we've said if you. Well, if you look at it this way, if we do the natural progression, you're automatically. Well, yes, you this. If we do 3, can you reapply?
This is Carrie.
Or
So
five.
this is a quick clarification, but this is per program, per license, right? So if you can't get barbering done in 3 years, I mean, in 3 renewals, that I mean, I think that should be enough time. But if you want to add aesthetics or something like that, then you have 3 years to do aesthetics. I don't think we should push it out 5 years.
What happens if, this is Bob, what happens if, they take time off to, have a baby?
They're in dormant status.
They have to
Right.
notify us.
Well, they
Yeah,
have
they
to
notify us.
because it's a whole rule for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think isn't that separate then, right? So this is if they do it for 2 years, they renew it twice, and then it goes in dormant status and they have a baby or, take care of elderly or something like that, and they come back to it, then they can renew again, correct?
And so this is Bob.
If we went with Tammy's one. If you, this is, go ahead.
I was just gonna throw another scenario. What if, the person is in a career change, they're leaving one career to come into this field. And so they're working a full-time job elsewhere and they're trying to get their time in, you know, whatever many hours a week with a salon to get their license. That could push it past 3 years.
Working
Just,
Saturdays.
yeah, just, just a scenario because, I mean, I could see that happening.
This is Tammy. I feel like people are gonna be motivated to get through this program. I don't feel like they're going to not be, but if you live in your life, you have children, you have you have to have another job to make money, whatever, and you do 1 or 2 days a week, it could take you 100 weeks to get through it or whatever, it's like, I just think that putting a stop on it doesn't make sense.
This Tina, you could make it to where once their requirements are done, they're done. I mean, they can't continue. I mean, okay.
Great idea though.
Yeah. Then they would not still continue on because they fulfilled all their hours, all their practicals and stuff. You can't just stay and keep going once they're completed. Yes, once they're done with training, they're done. You can't go
Yeah, I
further.
think you told me that to the last meeting.
Yeah.
It's number 7. Will be placed in the fire status. I don't know if that's actually right.
Did we
They'll just
land?
be done.
Yeah.
They'll just be
Did
done.
we land on this one?
No.
Okay.
No.
But it makes sense and it stops them from just working with their professional.
Yeah, that does.
We're coming in and taking tests, they just
Yeah.
keep renewing.
Yeah.
Are we circling the airport?
Sammy's thinking.
Well, I think sign language interpreters is clashing with eschatology. It's not good because there's a very. I'm trying to think. Let's circle back to this.
Julie. If you're talking, you're muted.
Okay, sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I was just wondering if we could put a time limit on it, and if a student needs to exceed that time limit, they could petition, they could go before the state board and just explain, and ask for an extension. I don't know if that's a possibility or not, or even if it's practical, but that was the first thing that came to mind for me. And that way they can't just keep doing it into perpetuity. They'd have to, if they keep asking for an extension, the board is gonna, a person is actually gonna question it.
This is Tina. They could just, if they haven't done their hours, say you guys did set a time limit of 3 years and they have not finished it, they would have to reapply
Got
and
it.
keep going. I mean,
Or go the traditional route. Either one. They could go and get regular licensing.
This is Megan. How do they go about applying for this license? And is that something that we are able to find before taking them on? Is that like public knowledge if they applied for that and hold that license?
gonna have a license, so if you take them on at a salon, they have to have their license.
Yeah, it starts on the next page, 20.
Okay, and that will be public knowledge, like we can like search their license, see if they're actually have it or if it's, lapsed or anything like that.
Yes, and it has to be attached to a supervisor.
So when they apply for that, they already have to have a supervisor also?
Well, that's up for debate today. Let me think about page 23 a little bit. And work on that.
We'll circle back.
Yeah. And then I'm gonna ask for a 10-minute break before we start. I go or finish this one. Well, you wanna finish this one first, and then come back.
We can have a break.
Let's finish this one. No, because it be on yours. Yeah, we'll circle back to this one. Yeah, 10-minute break
I'm back here at 11:15.
for 11. Yes, yes, yeah. Page 25, there should have been a page break, it was not. Or it's the fourth line down, A17000620. These are gonna be the application requirements to obtain a provisional certificate.
What I want, what, 25? Are you
25.
At the beginning.
1, 2, 3, 4
Yeah, 4
line.
lines down.
Pardon me, we're on 4?
No, 4 lines down.
4 lines. Application requirements.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, what page did you say?
5. So it's, the number 1 meets requirements of 1 division 30, this is Sammy, sorry, is the identification requirements and things like that for a health licensing office. Submit a completed application on a form prescribed by the office and then submit documentation showing proof that the applicant's residential address is at least 50 miles from a school that offers a program of study in a field of practice from which the applicant is seeking education and training. Question.
Well, this is Tina. So if State Terry School is by them and they don't teach something he or she wants to take, That's 50 miles to the next nearest school.
That's a good, oh, this is Carrie, sorry. That's a good point. Do we need to say like by license year or something like that? Because you're right. What if we don't teach nails?
I mean, your staff's not gonna know these things.
Right.
Where the schools are.
Yeah.
We've got list where people live, what they sort of.
Or the student has to know.
And what kids practice and teach.
And this is Carrie again, and that's verified. So they submit the document showing proof that the applicant's residential address is at least 50 miles. And is that verified then by you guys as well too? Because say they put that it's outside of Gorge Academy, but it's inside of Fagans. And they just report one school. Is it verified?
Yes, it would be verified.
Can I ask a clarifying question? This is Tammy. So do I understand you to say if somebody lives in the Dalles and want to do nails and the Gorge Academy doesn't offer nails, they could do their provisional license in the Dalles?
If they're 50 miles away
If they're
from
not.
yeah.
I hadn't even thought of that.
Yeah, the
Wow.
statute specific.
Yeah, because this is Carrie. There are some schools that are literally aesthetics, massage and aesthetics. Sage and Bend was just aesthetics and massage. So if they don't have that license, then they could do, hair design next to a school that they didn't have hair design.
We should know what we're.
We've got the list of schools, we'll know.
Demonstrate the ability and intention to actively work towards practitioner certificate and field practice. Under verify those numbers are right. For the purpose of this section, an attestation is sufficient to demonstrate the ability and intent to actively work towards practitioner certification. Got that.
Submit Pam. I think number 4 supports the idea of having a time limit on your renewal. By putting number 4 into this clause that they're actively working on getting that provisional certificate. If you have that 3 or 5 year mark, that supports it.
Just reading.
I'm reading the statute.
Provisional certificate under this section may be renewed pursuant to rules adopted by the board. That's not. Being performed only in a field of practice.
Yeah, so it's in two separate places in the bill. The first place is where it talks about process for the health licensing office to issue a provisional certificate, including eligibility requirements specified the holder of the provisional certificate shall be actively working towards holding a certificate. And then separate from that is a provisional certificate issued under this section may be renewed pursuant to the rules adopted by the board. So they'll have to beg for you to decide, that's why.
This is Tammy. Can I just be, for lack of a better term, the devil's advocate? So let's say you're attesting to that you are going to be doing what you're supposed to be doing. If one person breaks the rules, then why don't we hold one person accountable for that breaking the rules? Instead of saying to everyone, you can't do this. It's like, it's like at my job, we can't just punish everybody because one person might do it. So you hold the person accountable who does it. I don't know, that's
how rules should be written.
And it's saying, they're writing something saying, this is what I'm doing. And if they're not doing that,
The declaration of responsibility, which you'll see in a little while, signed by the supervisor. So this is saying that you're gonna have a supervisor before when you apply, you already have somebody. You've already got that. Yeah. And then.
This is Cindy. I just wanted to I know you're busy over there trying to catch up on those things, but my head goes back to the 50 miles. For my own, how are you gonna verify that 50 miles? Like their address on their license or driver's license?
So this, Tina, we'd have to take the address, probably on their driver's license or the address they provide us. Because, you can change your address.
I asked because I think about, sorry, I had it shut off, but it goes anyway. I'm sorry. I think about families with kids they want to send to school, right?
Yes.
And I want my kid in the Cascade School District, right?
Yeah.
And, blah, blah, blah. So I'm gonna use Tammy's address because she said it was okay to get my kid in there. Point being is, I wonder, just throwing it out there, again, I don't wanna go to the school because I don't wanna follow what they're doing. I don't wanna do that. I don't wanna blah, 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 blah. So I'm gonna say I'm using this address even though, so that I can get this provisional and do things that way. Is that gonna create a issue?
So, yeah, potentially, but there'll come a time as we send information to this address that is provided. If it keeps coming back, we have a regulatory department that, can review, it'll eventually catch up to them. I mean, it would be extremely difficult and time consuming and expensive to try to verify that this person is living there.
okay.
Well,
But they could have to do their driver's license. I mean, you have to prove where you live.
Yes.
to get a driver's
For sure.
they
Yeah,
have
that's right.
to get their driver's license.
For sure, but be the devil's advocate, how many times have we maybe moved and then waited till the next renewal cycle, 8 years down the road to update your driver's license?
Well, and you don't get a sticker anymore on your driver's license.
It's a new,
You have to get a new, it stays the same until you get your. Sure.
But it can be done through online too. But I mean, they make it as easy as possible, but I'm sure people still do it. And we have that issue here all the time. When we send information out, we get buckets of mail back because it's not picked up.
I don't think anybody's checking to make sure that.
No, they're not. I mean, they do when they go out to the inspections, but here, as if someone applies, We just don't have staffing to double check and make sure they're being honest. It'll catch up to them.
Brianna has her hand up.
Yeah, why can't we like require 2 pieces of ID? So, you know, like when you go to DMV, you have to provide 2 pieces of ID that say your address. Just a thought.
We could use what DMV says for address. They say, to prove residency for the Oregon DMV driver's license or ID, you must provide 1 document for the real ID, 2 documents showing your name and current Oregon address, such as utility bill, lease agreement, mortgage statement, or bank document. New residents must obtain an Oregon license and register vehicle. You could use that.
Yeah.
It's giving you a little more guidance and for staff and the.
I think that'd be a good idea.
Well, and this is so, sorry, this Tammy, this is out of the normal, like we talked about, so we could do that. That would actually make sense.
Yeah. A PGE and Northwest Electric,
Cell
city.
phone bill and your
Yeah.
electric bill. Or
Everybody's got those.
Yeah, we all have.
Photo ID and one.
I all have bill.
Yeah.
I think that's good. Thank you.
Good question.
So I have a weird question. What if someone is
You are-
underage? This is Megan. Just because I went to beauty school when I was 17. So is that something that would be possible through this or not at all?
Carrie, this is Tina, yes. The only thing you have to be 18 for is a facility license, an independent contractor's license.
Okay, I was just curious because I was licensed by the time I was 17 over in Idaho, so I wasn't sure how that worked for this possibility. So
Yeah, minors can get identification cards.
Carrie's got her hand up.
This is Carrie. To Megan's point, they're allowed to go to cosmetology school under the age of 18, but if they are under the age of 18, then everybody has to have a background and fingerprint check under 18.
Yeah.
And then it comes up by school if they allow that or not. So, but this also to Tammy's point, I think that this is a great idea to have a double verification because that does show not just that you're writing down your address and that it's on your driver's license, but that you're living there, that you've got some sort of, tie to that location. I think that's a good kind of checks and balances.
Carrie, this is Sammy. Can you, I just want to make sure that everyone's aware that we're not requiring background checks or fingerprints. I wasn't exactly sure what you meant.
That's a heck requirement.
I wasn't sure if that's what she meant.
She's talking about what she's been wanting to do.
Under 18.
But we are not going to be required, right? Okay. Okay, moving on, top of page 27.
We didn't talk about that.
What? Oh, but let's get right over it.
On page 25.
To make documentation to prove having completed the blood form package and training. Bottom of page 25. And then top of page 26 is the declaration of responsibility, supervisor's signature. And then 7 says that you cannot start practicing until the office has given you the okay.
Can I ask a question? This is Tammy. So this declaration of responsibility, they get that from the supervisor and then they put that in with the application? And do they also do they just say I did bloodborne pathogens, or do they have to submit their certificate?
Proof. Oh,
It's not proof.
Submit proof.
I don't know. I'll have to look at how others do other programs.
Well, tattoo, and then they have to submit proof.
Usually it's just a test unless they're audited.
That's for renewal.
For renewal.
So these guys would do it. To your question about the supervisor.
And yeah, I just was wondering if those things had to be provided with the application process.
Yes. They're actually all combined together.
Okay.
Which one they do?
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean.
Hopefully after all these rules, we'll get to their beautiful forms.
Beautiful form.
Much prettier to look at than others. I promise. So top of page 27 is the requirements.
Everything good there.
Liz has her hand up.
Liz?
Hi, thank you. I'm sorry to circle back to this, but I just had to do a little research. And in my town, there's parts of the town that they're 50 miles or more, and literally parts of the town were like at 49 miles, 44. Are we like, who's going to make sure that that map is like, because that could really change someone's life. Sorry, it's just that this is a big deal for us, and so we want to make sure we can help as many people as possible, and that's just how the map works.
Location
Yeah.
and the address of the school, and they're gonna do the math, and if it's less than 50, it's a no.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Only because we can't change it.
Oh, I know. It's the reason why behind it. It's just, it's unfortunate, but we'll just have them move to the other side of town.
Yeah, it's not a delegated term, it's a exact, so.
Yeah.
Not change it. Right?
Exactly.
Yes, I have a question. So if a student originally qualifies for the needed distance, what happens if they move across the town where it's now closer to this school? Does that disqualify them from continuing on in the training program?
Unknown.
Okay.
When they start.
No, I don't know. I am
Yeah.
that, Bob.
I mean, I could say that 50 miles. And now you're required to go to school, but maybe they can take what they've already learned from school and have it assessed and do it that way. It's hard to say.
Thank you.
We would probably have to get some legal advice on it.
Yeah. This is Tina. I thought about this. What if they've been attending or at a facility and a school moves into their town? They don't have to pop out of that training program and go enroll in a school. I mean, that's the question. I mean,
Yeah,
I
that's the
wouldn't.
question.
Part of the
And
problem.
statute says 50 miles.
Right, and it's not attached.
And when they submitted their application, they were compliant.
Yeah.
So I think yeah.
Actually, here's the thing.
Okay.
So. Okay, no, I think that. Says an applicant for a provisional certificate shall pay a fee. That's it.
Yeah.
Fee is the office may issue a provisional certificate to perform in a field of practice if no school that offers a program of study in a field of practice is located within 50 miles of the applicant's residential address. So question mark is, does applicant always mean someone new, or is applicant a renewer? That's my first question. And my second question is, it's the same, is when you issue, is it issuing the initial license or issuing the renewal? Those are all questions for an attorney. I am there.
And this is Tammy. I would think that it could get messy.
Oh, yeah.
But also, if you are in a program, I'm in a program at Michelle's salon, and then Cindy moves the school in. When I signed up and did my license, it was under good faith. I attested to that's what it was. You were verified, everything was done. I'd be able to finish that program and not be forced to move. But if I let it go, the hours are transferable.
Yes.
Cities come in, now I have to reapply. Now I have to go to city school because now I've let that go away. I think that makes sense, but that's like you said, that's probably more of a lawyer and attorney type of question, but.
Well, then.
Wait.
Does that bring in the part about renewal and how many times, does that make that more relevant? It makes the number of times you can renew probably more important now if there's a school involved.
For sure.
That's the thing. These are
But
questions
that's
I
a
think.
cloud in the sky thing now. That's it.
Oh, you think?
Yeah, I think. Because if there's not a school there, chances are there's not gonna be a school there. Unless somebody says, oh, they're getting a lot of this provisionals in that area, we should go spot a school in there.
Sounds like it might happen.
Especially after the Department of Education business lately.
Okay. These are things, maybe we can make a statement of that now, and if it becomes like a big catastrophe, we'll do it. Right.
Carrie has her hand up.
This is Carrie. Just a quick clarification as well, too. So the supervisor has to be the 50 miles away as well, too, correct? So
No. The resident. License.
so the person going to so the supervisor could be next door to a school and somebody could be traveling into them that's 50 miles away.
Yes. Absolutely.
Huh.
That doesn't make sense.
That's ridiculous.
What is that?
I put a limit on the supervisor.
This is where the licensing is coming in on the person, not the facility.
Yeah,
That's
it's
the
all about the person.
Yeah, but Tammy, okay, wait a minute.
Right.
Because if you drive 50 miles to salon, you could
Yes.
drive 50 miles to the school that's next door. I would think the salon had to be 50 miles away from the school.
Absolutely, 100%. This is Carrie. I mean, we have people that travel, a couple hours to come to school. And so you don't want, I think that the idea is that how it was written is that it's kind of to help protect the schools that have already been established. So you could have somebody that drives an hour and goes 10 miles away from a school and get licensed that way.
That's on the person, not the facility.
I thought the purpose of this was to prevent barriers for people who couldn't travel to a school. So if the school, for example, is next door to that salon that they're going to be learning at, doesn't that defeat the whole purpose of what we're doing right now?
No.
How not? Because the barrier is the location of school, right?
It's the applicant's residential address. I mean, it's very specific. The office may issue a provisional certificate to perform a field of practice only if no school offers a program of study in a field of practice is located within 50 miles of the applicant's residential address. It is very specific.
But isn't the provisional provider an applicant as well? I mean.
No. They're already
The
licensed.
supervisor's already licensed.
I think that needs to be addressed because if you're a school, it kind of defeats the purpose of you even registering with HEC to open up a school because anybody could teach right next door to you, and they should be going to a full school program if they're driving that far.
So this is Carrie, and I think we could address this in the requirements to be a supervisor. So the law states this for the applicant, but we are setting what the rules are to become a supervisor. So couldn't we put that within the provisions or the regulations that, you know, they have to have a license for 5 years, have to have their bloodborne pathogens, whatever we've done, and that they have to be themselves 50 miles away from a school?
This is
Doesn't say
Sammy.
that.
So usually, what?
Go ahead.
Usually when there's an omission of information, it's on purpose. So the fact that the legislature put in 50 miles for the rest of the applicant who's obtaining the provisional, and they omitted it from what the supervisor requirement is, usually that means they did it on purpose.
I don't think it's this is Carrie. I don't think it'd be intentional. I think it would be forgotten or not known, not addressed.
I mean, if you were getting legal advice, that's generally how they look at things like that. Omission is generally on purpose. Especially when you've got in the same statute, one place where it gives a specific number, you have to be 50 miles, your residential address, and they omit it from the supervisor. Usually they do that intentionally. I mean, that's the way when we look at laws and how the intent is, that's kind of the framework that we use.
Or this is Carrie, or it's just not addressed because it was unknown. But can't we put those provisions then into the applying for a supervisor?
I mean, I can certainly try. That's the legal advice.
This is Amantha. I guess my concern is that students are going to use this as a loophole to just not go to school. So they're going to possibly decide that this is a better option for them personally than going to school. And I'm just going to drive all the way from, I don't know, Hermiston or something and come to Portland and, stay here for 2 days a week and go work underneath an apprenticeship program as a loophole of not attending school. And it just doesn't really seem fair to people who put a lot of money and energy into opening up a school in Portland. It just kind of seems like it defeats the purpose if the supervisor is not in fact 50 miles from the location, I guess the Portland area or the city.
I think you'd have to go back and get a law change to add it specifically into the supervisor requirement. That's what I think, but I'm not always right. But if Bob says you get legal, it makes sense.
Bob says what?
If I won't get legal,
Oh, yeah, I mean,
I'll put it in there as a question.
I'll put it in there as a question, but I think it'll be pretty simple. Response for legal advice as to the statute says the address of the provisional license holder must be 50 miles away from any school. I think we help bridge that and for surety is to have a extra ID or bill that shows that they're 50 miles, that their bills are 50 miles from the school. I get the point where someone's going to drive from Hermiston to Portland to avoid paying the school, but I think that's a stretch.
I mean, people already do it with the tattoo, or they were attempting to with the tattoo licensure because they knew that they could go to Washington and work in a salon to learn how to become a microblader. And then they were trying to open up businesses here in Oregon because there was less schooling for tattooing. I mean, we saw it with that. So I think that I don't know. I mean, you also see it at a local level of school districts, people faking their address to get their kids into different schools.
This is Pam. This is why other programs use a facility as opposed to the individual. They're defining their rules on the facility that the person's going to be working at, as opposed to the individual that moves 5 different times within their cycle of learning. So if we can't change the individual versus the supervisor? Can we look at the facility?
This is Carrie. That's a 100% valid point because we're saying, we have written that to become a supervisor, you have to have a facility license. So can't we then just put in there that they are required to have a facility license that is 50 miles away from a established school?
A person that, a provisional license holder has to work in a licensed facility. The supervisor does not have to be the holder of the facility license. I could be the holder of the facility license, and I don't have a license.
And I could work there and I could be the supervisor.
Right.
I'm
So let's
not,
not get that confused.
yeah.
This is Megan. I also agree that it should be under the facility address, though. Where I am over at, it's over in Roseburg. So it is between Medford and Eugene. Some people could live closer to one or the other and be within that 50-mile radius, but it may only be, like a mile or two within that. So I think having the facility address be what that falls under the 50-mile radius would be ideal.
I mean, we don't even, I only say about the facility on page.
This is Carrie. So this our conversation here is a very good conversation because somebody could, the facility license that is registered, right, is 50 miles away from the school, but the supervisor could move in the middle. So say from, I'm thinking the coast, right? So somebody, if the facility is in Newport and the student is going to that facility has to be 50 miles from the school. Now, the supervisor could live in the middle and drive to the facility that's closer to the school, but I think that the facility license has to be 50 miles from the school.
Okay, I'm going to jump in now because I am that person in Newport. And I'm just not understanding where the fear is coming. I am someone who has been drastically affected by our school closing 8 years ago. I would love to support a school, but driving over that path, people having like it is dangerous. It's a huge challenge. And so I know so many people have chosen to not go to school, not join the industry because they can't do it. And making these, like trying to set all these stipulations because there's this fear of scarcity that there's not going to be enough or that, I am that person. We're not trying to screw over schools. We're just trying to save our own businesses. And I just don't understand why there's so much fear around this.
And you are?
I'm Liz Mormon, and I'm a
Thank you.
Salon Ethos in Newport. And we have people in our community that are well within 50 miles or outside of the 50 miles. You have South Beach, you've got Walport, you've got Lincoln City, you've got Depot Bay, and we can help them. And I'm highly qualified. And our school, our salon, we have been starving because we can't get students. I just want to say that for the record, is everyone's so afraid that the big bag salon owners coming to take their business.
This is Sammy. That's certainly not the health licensing office things, but again, we are creatures of statute. We can't do what the statute tells us we can't do. We can only do what the legislature gives.
Talking about writing in these things that the supervisor has to live there. Like, can't we add this? Can't we add that? So I just got to state it for the record that I vehemently disagree with that action.
Yeah, but I think that this is Jessica. I think that's a little bit difficult. What if you own a salon that's 20 miles away from a school, but you're there, you have somebody that lives 50 miles away from your establishment, 50 miles away from, they want to come to just the 30 miles to my establishment to be trained, but I don't live, now my establishment's not 50 miles away, so they cannot. Now they have to drive the additional mileage to go to the school.
Exactly my point.
That doesn't seem right. It cannot be establishment. It has to be the individual.
Right. I mean, that's what the law says. And, but I said I would ask, But you're right, if you were to add in that the supervisor or facility has to be within 50 miles, then you're creating a barrier for somebody else. That wasn't there before. Right? So.
Right thing is coming. Right thing.
Yes, yes. Okay. Liz, I hear you, and I'm glad that you spoke up. Again, we are trying to put things into rules that is not mentioned in the statute. The statute said that the practice is located within 50 miles of the applicant's residential address. The applicants. So are we saying that if an independent contractor cannot be or a freelancer cannot be a supervisor? That would be, pardon?
You're already a practitioner.
Exactly. So if we're limiting it to a facility, a freelancer is not.
You're right. That was the decision made by Bob. To limit it to facilities. Easier to track. Always on.
Facilities are easier to know where those individuals are going, are being trained at.
Mm-hmm.
It's not saying that an independent contractor couldn't. They definitely could. Could that person go from facility to facility or go to a wedding? Maybe, but we were initially going to limit it to just only working in facility. Yeah.
Okay, so that's what we are going to do, is limiting it to the facility.
That's where the person has to work.
Okay, all right. So if let's just say that this person is limited to a facility, I think that the minimal amount of barrier that we put in it, and I wouldn't be too concerned about people flocking into the rural area because they don't want to go to school. We don't even have these people yet to do the supervision. Until we have that problem, I think that we should focus on trying to just establish the requirements for now and see who is even willing to participate in it. I mean, it might sound all nice, and inspiring, but maybe not everybody is interested in this. Let's see who we can get to help, help with the barrier that's already existing, that's already in place right now, before we start adding. That's the beauty about rules, right? It's a ever living document. So we see what works now, and if we need to make amendments, adjustment, modification, then we can do that. But for now, I say we cannot leave it to the intent, at least my understanding of the intent of this House bill or Senate, whatever this is, rather than trying to create more barrier. The point of it is to remove barrier. So let's not create more of it. So Liz, I hear you. It's not easy to try and get people, especially in the rural area, but if we can create opportunities for people to be able to jump into that, so be it. But I don't think creating more barriers is going to help anybody in any way. And it's going to just hinder what we're trying to do here.
This is Megan. I agree that we should be trying to remove the problems that people are facing. I'm wondering if maybe having like the specific address that has to be outside of that 50-mile radius. I'm wondering if it can be the facility of the person, doing it versus the person that's supervising. So to say that one or that one. So if the residential address is outside of that 50-mile radius, or the supervisor's address, whatever facility that will be held at, would be outside of that 50-mile radius. I'm wondering if it could be that or that one.
I think the applicants. I see what people are saying, but I think the applicants would be ideal.
The only thing with that is that say, it is just across town. So say their residential address is 49 miles outside of a school versus the school, or not the school, the supervisor's
Facility.
facility is going to be like 3 miles away from them. That would be much easier for them to go, 3 miles to go to the supervisor's facility versus traveling that whole thing, that whole 49 miles.
But I think though that it is up to this individual, right? If they want to go 3 miles or if they want to go 49 miles, because that's what you're saying, right? 49, but
But
let's just
what
say.
I'm saying is if we're using their address, they're not able to go just the 3 miles. They don't get to choose. They are stuck with one or the other, or not one or the other. They're stuck with the one that's farther away if their address is, within that 50 miles.
I
This
guess it
is
depends on
Tina. This is Tina. Sammy has already noted to get legal advice on the facility. So we just need to stick with what the statutes currently say. And it is the residential address.
of the
Okay.
applicant.
Okay.
But this is Carrie, and I do, like Liz stated, she wants to put it on the record, is that I want to put it on the record as well too, is that if if this supervisor is to open up within the gorge area and you're 10 miles away from a school, then you could have potentially people traveling in within 10 miles of this school to go to this apprentice supervisor training program.
Yeah.
And as a school, the amount of time and energy and cost that we've put in to establish this to support our beauty industry and get stylists for you, that's a lot of years and a lot of dedication that a supervisor could move a facility within 10 miles of us. So I think with some respect to the industry of Oregon and the cosmetology schools that are here, I don't think it's harmful to say this supervisor has to be within 50 miles of an established school.
So this is Megan, sorry. Living in Roseburg, I believe any school either way is over 50 miles. So if we had a facility right there, that would be the only place that I think most people would go to.
And they'd go be an apprentice somewhere in Roseburg, right?
Yes, ideally you'd have the supervisor in Roseburg.
I just wanted to come back to what Carrie said, and I agree with her on the facility location being outside the 50 miles from the school as well. And that's all. It just makes sense. It seems as though we could put it in the requirements to be a uh, what's the word we're using for the instructor? Supervisor. And I just wanted I just wanted to chime in on that. I think Carrie's right. And it also stays within the spirit of why the regulation, the boundaries of the regulation itself.
Wait, what? I'm so confused.
I think a lot of us are.
Tina, but please, can you help me just understand what we're talking? I'm a little bit confused. I'm looking at the statute, and it's very specific about where the individual lives. So,
Read it and, yeah. And so now I'm gonna give legal advice on.
thank you.
If a facility can be 50 miles from a school, we require that, or can we require a supervisor to be 50 miles from a school in addition to the applicant for provisional certificate?
I want the facility. It doesn't matter. For all I care, the supervisor could live. The supervisor can live, you know, Idaho, but the facility itself where the student is getting instruction should be outside that 50-mile circumference.
Outside or within, I think. Oh, okay. Please help me if I'm wrong, please correct. So we're saying that if a facility moves closer, so the facility moves from Roseburg to Eugene, for example, obviously that student cannot follow because that's far. So they either need to transfer to another supervisor within where they are, because then they would be going outside of the statute.
Way off.
So that's what we're seeking clarification on, correct?
No. We're seeking clarification on whether the statute is just for the individual. Other people are wanting to have the facility have that same requirement, not just the individual, but the facility as well. Doesn't matter where the supervisor lives, it's the facility.
This is Megan, and yeah, so I feel like if someone lives like right in the middle, they'd be within both options, but they should be able to choose whichever one's closer to them, whether that is the school or the facility, because the facility would have to be 50 miles away, but maybe where they live, it doesn't have to be that.
I see.
This is Carrie, which is a good point, because then if there's a supervisor that's in the middle, the supervisor could go to the school or to the facility. And the facility they travel to would be the 50 miles away from the school. So I don't think it's a requirement to have the supervisor 50 miles away, but that it makes sense to have the facility the 50 miles away.
So then I do have a question, Bob or Tina. So then does that mean that we would have two things that addresses both the applicant and the supervisor in the rules? Because we cannot leave out the piece for the applicant to be 50 miles, right? But we're also saying that the facility must be 50 miles. So
This
that
is
would
Megan. I think that the applicant should not have to put like have their I mean, obviously they have to provide their address, but their address is not relevant to the 50 miles.
But the law says.
And it's on page 25. Number 3.
25, number 3.
Applicant must submit documentation of being at least 6 miles away. That is a requirement of statute.
And so this is Megan. And so that's something that would have to be changed outside of like this conversation, right? We can't change it to facility like with that would be something more law related. You'd have to talk to other people.
Yes. We have to do a change to the statute.
I will ask legal counsel if it's possible. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get a no, but I've been wrong before. But I'll ask. There is some, where this topic started was if somebody moves and they're not 50 miles away anymore, or if a school moves in, and so I wrote some notes. I don't know where we started and then we jumped over to this topic, so. That might be.
This is Tricia, for the record. I was just gonna point out, I don't think if moving, saying that the salon needs to be, wherever the training is gonna take place, needs to be 50 from the school, because that could be somebody's down in, Roseburg, wherever. So 50 miles, a salon within that is reasonable. If the school is 60 miles and now you have 50 miles away, that could be in a totally different direction. And now you're talking 2 hours away, not just the 50. It seems like this, you're wanting that facility to be within the 50 miles of that person's address, not outside of the school. In my mind. Looking at it in my head.
That this is Megan, correct? Because it might be closer to them. It might be, like I said, only, like 30 minutes or so away versus a whole hour away.
But what she's saying, there's the opposite of that. That you're right now, as it stands, though, the law states the resident of the applicant. Am I correct on that?
Yes, you
And
are.
so there's and in order for that to change, it would be a literal act of Congress, correct? Because you have to change the law.
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Thank you.
You're welcome. We can add to that, though, but we can't subtract. Is that correct? Yes.
That's why I maybe suggested, the address of the facility for the supervisor or the address of that. At least one of them would have to be outside of the 50 miles.
Well, the
So
facility
we have
makes
the
the
power
most
to
sense.
change that.
No,
Okay, this is.
we're gonna get advice on it.
That's all we can do.
That's the answer I can
Because
give
then
you.
we have to start lobbying with each other, because this is a really big deal.
Legal advice is the third branch of government, and we're gonna go to them to get the intent of the law, what the legislature read.
Clarification.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Next. Okay, top of page 27. Supervisor requirements, I think I just threw stuff in here. But I don't think we got this far last time, since I think where we stopped. So it's got the office application stuff, and it has what the law says, no disciplinary action, actively practicing for 5 years. And then I added the next one, CPR, or master.
This is Tina, did we determine they have to be licensed 5 years? Because teachers don't, right? Instructors, 2 years.
We talked about that at first or second, is it? Where did we land on that? It is 2 years, is that right? The law is.
So held license for 5 years.
Oh, it's definitely 5 years it is.
This is Megan. I have a clarification question on that. Is it licensed in Oregon specifically for 5 years, or can you be licensed in another state and also be licensed in Oregon? And that can kind of tack on to that level of experience. Because I've been over here for a little over 2 years now, but I worked over in Idaho for about 8.
Yeah, I don't know. But I can write that down for next time.
Julie.
To expand on what Megan just said, and I get that my situation is a one-off thing, but I think it should be, if it's going to be 5 years, it should be 5 within the last 6, because I was licensed a few decades ago in another state and would technically meet the requirements, but I've only been licensed here recently for a year. And quite honestly, I don't think I should be in a position to be in a classroom or in a supervisory role. So that was just stipulation, you know, people take time off. So yeah, there should be some wiggle room. But if we're going to require 5 years of experience, it should be 5 recent years. And for someone like Megan, you know, of course, as long as it was uninterrupted, I don't see any problem with out of state experience.
This is Tricia. C does actually say minimum of 5 years immediately preceding the date of application. So it is current experience.
Very good.
But I think it has to be Oregon license certification.
It doesn't say Oregon, it just says active practitioner certificate.
In the statutes.
And practitioners defined as
Statutes,
an Oregon licensee.
Oh, statute says 5.
And practitioner means a person certified to perform services, including within the field of practice. Gotcha. I know what practitioner means they're Oregon licensed.
It does say in the state of Oregon.
It says a practitioner, and the practitioner means a person who's certified to perform services included within the field of practice.
That's not a state though. That's not saying it has to be in Oregon.
If HLO is looking at affidavit of licensure for each supervisor who applies, won't it be clear that somebody was, how long they were licensed, even if it was out of state?
I don't have an answer for out of state today, so. That's another thing to check. That will be another day. Another day. I don't know. So when I'm asking the questions here, so are you limiting? So if somebody comes from New York tomorrow and they have 5 years of experience in New York and they can start supervising in Oregon,
No,
is that what you're saying? Is that what you're asking?
I
Yes.
don't, I, can you see my hand? I want to have some decorum, but may I say something? So the statute does open it up to the board to decide where this person get the 5 years from. But in my experience, I think it would behoove the board to make it where the licensee must be licensed in Oregon for that amount of time. The reason being, rules outside of the board of the Oregon can different in so many ways. There may be requirements that some people don't have outside of Oregon that the board has. That is way more than what is required. So I would think that, I could be wrong, but I would think that it would behoove us to make sure that whoever is going to be a supervisor has been licensed with the Board of Cosmetology for that 5 years that's required in Oregon.
This is Pam speaking. In order for a person to get a license in the state of Oregon, they have to take pass rules and regulations and their field of practice. So they are licensed with the required knowledge to be able to practice generally. So myself having lots of years of experience, when I came here and worked for 1 or 2 years, and I wanted to take on a apprentice, I would be very upset if I couldn't do it because I have the experience. So again, if we're not trying to create barriers, I think that it should be wherever they get their experience. Yeah, with transcripts and stuff.
And this is Tina to add to that, and Sammy is gonna look into it, but to add to it, you have to be equivalent to come into Oregon from another state.
It's across.
This is Megan. I also think it's a supervisor's job to look into any laws that are changing and that you need to still, teach the current regulations and whatnot to whoever, whoever's getting this certification.
Let's take a 5-minute break, Mr. Bob. 5-minute break, please.
We get a 10-minute break.
Yeah.
We get a 7-minute break. This is a negotiation, Bob.
Do a 10-minute break.
Do you guys want to come back at 35? 13-minute break.
13 minutes.
Yeah. All right, I'm back at 35.
Page 28.
Yeah, we're on 27. I'm gonna ask about if it has to be somebody who holds an Oregon license actively in 5 years or maybe another state.
And then we talked about the D and E already, so are we on to 2A? Yes, 2.
I don't think we talked about D. So they need CPR, then you're going to tell them who to go to for CPR? Because it says.
Oh, that's not.
From an office approved provider.
Right. It's old language, she'll take it out. Can be by anybody.
So we're gonna put the training and then after that, we're removing the rest.
Yeah. They would program action.
I didn't have to hold this.
I don't know, they don't have to.
Yeah, do you guys all hold CPR?
I do, just because. Right.
I do, but we're not required.
So you're not required.
EOC requires me to do CPR every 2 years, but, yeah, so you do the decimals.
Do you think that they need to?
Stanley said you put it in, so do we need it or no?
I don't think we need it because no salon is required to have anybody CPR trained in a salon. I don't know why we would need that.
Take it out.
What I heard. Danny?
He's required by the state, so they're supposed to do that anyway. I would keep it in there. E.
Yeah, let learn, but not D.
Not D. D's out.
Just shows that. Are they muted or are they on?
Supervising requirements. You guys can add to it, take stuff away. It's completely up to you. I merged a few different ones together.
For 2, are you saying?
Oh,
Where's that?
28, page
Oh,
28.
28, yes. So the only thing I saw was, on down, 2/3 way down, the required providing one-to-one personalized guidance. Didn't we change that to 4-to-1?
Yeah, yes. Would this Tina, would this be somewhere where we would add, like to have signage or anything like that for supervisor for training? So I'm not sure. I don't know, that's. Maybe. Because then it would be telling them that they do have to.
You could put it in either B or C, at the end, signage. Big B, little b, little b, page 28, little b. Where? Or even A.
Okay, where are you guys at? I don't want to skip ahead.
29.
29?
One here. On 29C, it says minimum for records, maintaining records for 5 years. I think it should be longer, maybe 10, because we were kind of talking earlier, if someone is being in training and then maybe they have a baby or a medical, it could take longer than 5 years. I don't know what was decided on that, but it was just a suggestion, maybe a little longer than 5 years.
Well, this is after the completion.
Oh,
of the supervision.
Of the
So this is
supervision.
the supervisor.
Right.
Has to be through.
Yeah.
Maintain.
So following completion, so if they haven't completed.
Oh,
Okay. What you're saying.
yeah.
Are you talking about the supervisor or the person who's got the training?
Training.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the wrong thing.
I don't think we have that one anymore,
No, okay.
but we could have it.
No.
We have it for midwives. Well, because I just wrote that.
That part might need a little, might need some clarification, because if they under B, they discontinue supervision because that person is taking some time off to have a baby, whatever. And it does go beyond 5 years. They haven't completed it, but they have discontinued. So, I mean, are they stuck holding those records inevitably? Or just the 5 years once their portion is complete?
Wouldn't it be the responsibility of the provisional certificate holder to keep their own record, to have the.
Not if they want to
records?
continue on to another
Right,
supervisor.
but, yes, but if somebody is working as an apprentice and they are trying to get their provisional certificate, let's say they go down the street and work at another salon. It's their responsibility to know what they've contributed to their own education. And so
That's
typically, the supervisor would give a practitioner monthly reports so that they have the awareness of what they've learned.
If this was a school, that school is required to maintain those records and transfer it to the next school of record. They're not gonna take that information from the student. It has to come from the school, just like we won't accept a transcript from the student, even if it came from the school. We get it directly from the school. So the salon would need to transfer it to that new salon that they want to work at.
They would use the forms that are gonna be.
Read ahead, did they? Nobody reads ahead, do they?
Yeah, it's ahead.
Oh, is it ahead?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's on the third, starts on 34, and there's a box on 35.
Still don't like to that.
Means the school is removed. What do you mean? No, can we require that? We require school to do that?
Not to the person we have it transferred to. But
Who
since
requires
it's out of the box.
Somebody require it, or is this the right thing to do?
Does HEC require if a student leaves your school and goes to another for you to forward the records?
Yes.
Yes.
Is it required, or is this a good, nice thing to do? What you should do?
It's required.
It's required.
And we gotta keep records for 25 years.
Yes.
So it's 10 is not, I mean, if you're gonna do it, this is Tammy, sorry, I forgot to identify myself. If you're signing up to do it, you're signing up for everything that comes with it. So I think that, I don't think 10 years is out of the question. You have a filing cabinet.
This is Pam, it says minimum of 5 years. If somebody wanted to keep it longer, they certainly could, but,
I mean, how long does they all think it should be kept off? I mean, it would be for enforcement purposes or.
Can everybody online hear us?
Yes.
Just making sure.
So for regulatory purposes, 5 years beyond the completion
Of the program or the supervision?
of the supervision.
Two different things. I have supervision on here, but I think they're saying
Program.
the program.
That makes sense.
Completion of the program, 5 years past. So this is Tricia. So if they don't finish the program, then they are holding on to those records indefinitely. Yeah, is that right?
Well, 5 years.
No,
Well, yeah.
That's what I'm
So
saying.
we could, if somebody, okay, so like we do it now. If a hearing aid or environmental health or something, they're done, they usually submit how many hours that they did receive.
All in the next one.
Okay,
It's
it's
all
in
in
the
the
next
box.
one.
All in the box.
The box.
If we need an additional campus, combine the education in 1 and training in 4, how would a supervisor assess education hours? How would the school assess training? If a student that needs a school or training,
Okay.
I bet thought through all of these things over the weekend.
Fine, break it slow.
But I think we're skipping
Yeah,
a lot of stuff.
so let's ask them if they have anything on supervised. requirement.
So let's see, what are we trying to say? They must maintain the supervision records for a minimum of 5 years. Each state period. After designated as primary supervisor responsible for receiving and maintaining all issues.
I have a question.
That's right.
This is Tammy. So back to the how long you keep the records. So are these, so I start a program in barbering and I don't finish it. I go dormant, I take a break. I decide, no, I want to do it. It's been 6 years and I want to go back and I want to finish it. Are those hours expiring or are my, so if you're not keeping the record past 5 years, then I can't go back in 6 and finish the program. So that's what I'm saying. I think, I know people think it's too long or whatever, but I think that it being a little bit longer isn't gonna hurt anybody, and if they are not expiring, then it needs to be long enough that people have them still. And if I do wanna go, and now I've moved closer to Cindy's school, so I'm gonna go to her school, those need to be, those records have to be transferable, because we said they're equal.
But this sentence is not talking about incomplete, it's talking about upon completion of supervision.
There isn't anything in, so where is it talking about how long they keep the records, period, then?
Right, there's two questions I think that are being asked of you guys. One is, do they keep the record till they're done being the supervisor? And how long is that? How many years? Or is it till the person is done with the program and how long?
Okay, question number 2 is Tammy again. Are any of those safety and sanitation, electricity, chemistry, if I decide to go back, I completed the program, I decide to go back and do nails now, am I gonna be able to use any of those things?
Like they would be in a school.
So I would start all over, or I would get credit, because if you haven't got my records, then I can't get credit.
I have that question. Because I had the same question. If you get licensed, then when you go back to take a second discipline at your guys' school, you don't have to do like safe stand for development.
Correct.
Cindy?
Thank you. Supervision records would also include their transcript, right? Okay,
Their
so,
certification completion.
Yeah.
okay. So just because of, coming from school, I've been there longer than I'm gonna admit. So anyway, I still get, to protect the student here, I still get calls from a lot of them. It's been like 15 years, 20 years. They've completed even, but they need that certificate because they're going on to something else now. And so some of it can be transferable, so on and so on. So it's just a suggestion that we may want to have them keep it a bit longer. Besides that, if this supervisor is no longer doing it anymore, whatever, I would think there should be a provision as to what happens to those records then. Like ours have to go to heck. Somebody's gotta be in control. You already got it?
I think the answer to the question that I have is
Perfect.
that once
Okay.
that's been done, it needs to come to HLO. And I think we have
Yeah,
other
their
boards like that.
certificate, yes.
Yeah.
A certificate of training for whatever hours, completion of hours or not completed of hours, that transcript, certificate of training is going to come to us.
And that way.
If they ever want to go to another place, we'll have it and
think that's
go from there.
Perfect, thank you.
Terry?
Yes, I agree with you guys, what you're saying, and that was kind of my clarification. I don't think it's bad to have them keep them for 10 years. I mean, literally, time flies, and we get questions on these files, 5, 6, 9 years later. So I don't think 10's an unreasonable number.
come to us.
And this is Tina. Also, there's states now that even though you're licensed in Oregon for X amount of years, they're requiring transcripts now. I've been shocked how many calls we get that need the transcripts.
All the time. This is Tammy. I get people, and other states will take them from the student where Oregon won't.
Yes.
But so I email people just in Idaho. I just had somebody that's gonna do hair extensions and she needed her transcripts for that. So yeah, I literally get calls all the time for it.
And some jobs now and colleges that
Yes.
want transcripts.
Credits.
Yeah.
Okay.
10
so
years?
10 years, and it'll be to a completion of supervision. And then when we get down below, you'll see that role.
And then this is Carrie, real quick. Do we have it written in if they do leave their supervisor position role, that those files do have to get sent to you guys for filing?
Not gonna be the whole file. It's only gonna be a certificate training.
The certificate and the transcript?
The certificate of training is the transcript.
Oh, okay.
Certificate of training, certificate of completion, and what was the third one?
No, it's a certificate
Of training, that's all.
This is Megan. So with the certificate of training, will you be able to break down like what theory hours they did, what like how
It
much
will all
mannequin
be
work they
on
did?
there.
Okay.
You'll see it soon.
So once they're done supervising, whether it's tomorrow, they're gonna send that to us. Whatever they supervise, they're gonna send us that information and they're gonna keep it for 10 years.
Yes.
That way the student's protected, because the HLO got it, the institution, and the supervisor's protected in case they get a complaint.
This is Megan again. Is that something that you would send in if someone was to take a leave also? Like say they're gone for a year, would you want us to send that the certificate of what they did complete to you during that? Because honestly, they might not come back.
Yes. If they leave for a leave of absence, we want to know what their training was prior to. So when they come back, they can restart or maybe go to somebody else.
And that would be in their paperwork to tell them where that gets sent and all that.
Are we on?
There's one.
Page 31. Nothing changed here except I took out a form required by the office because we say it like 18,000 times.
Page 34.
Yeah.
Page 34.
34. Pathway goals.
They expected to pass a practical like our students are.
Great question. In here. I put it in here, but I don't even have to. Yeah, big weed. But I don't know if you guys wanna put some parameters around the practical exam. More than you have in the school. Okay. Like, I mean, in most cases, the supervisor can do a practical like in piercing. And electrolysis, the supervisor gets to do the practical. For the student, for the training. So we could do that here or not.
Tammy, I think that we should mirror the transcript that the school sends in. They're doing the same things. It's like we do all our baby boards where they take all the tests. They have to get the score, passing at least 75% score in order to even be finished. If they're not done, they can't pass those tests. They're not going to pass the state test either. So they do the tests and then they do the practicals, and they have to get passing scores to be ready to sit for an exam.
I don't know about what.
This is Pam. The only challenge you're going to have is salons that don't provide certain services that the applicant's going to need to test on, like chemical relaxing and things like that.
Yeah.
So
I'm just that.
Pardon me?
They would have to. They have
They
to.
have to teach. Right, but what I'm saying is I've had the experience where people say, we don't offer that in our salon. How do I teach it? And so they don't know how to teach it, let alone how to do a practical on it. I'm saying in the big picture, that's going to be the only challenge that you have when you are having the student do a practical. Is some salons a lot of salons don't do perms right now. And so they're having a hard time showing perm information.
This is Megan. Is that something that could be used as like a mock thing with mannequins? Because I know when I was in school, we didn't do a whole lot of relaxers, but we did do a lot with like gel or cholesterol on mannequin heads.
Yeah. So we could, if possible, we could maybe put that the practical can be done on mannequins.
Certain portions, I mean, that's just.
I don't want to break it down that far.
Yeah, that's.
Okay, more meat, a lot more meat.
Yeah, I don't.
I think you need to break it down that far, but you need to make sure they do everything.
Yeah.
I mean, how do we do it? Yeah.
We don't, not in the, it's in the practical itself. Is the steps that you have to complete.
The schools are required to do that, but now we're talking not having it in the schools. The applicant is going to need to do a practical before they come here.
If they'll have to have the
So
forms.
there has to be some kind of reference for that. Okay.
They'll have to have forms to do the practical.
Okay.
And I was just telling Sammy, some of the practical stuff needs to be updated.
Oh, yes, please.
Yes. No more finger waving, so that,
I don't
yeah,
know how.
some of the forms.
That's that one.
Derek.
Yeah, he does better.
Yeah. So I'll talk with Derek about all that.
So you're gonna have a form.
Have the same forms that most of the schools use.
So it's not a skills assessment. It's a practical.
Carrie's starting into.
Yeah, Carrie.
Sorry, there's a lot of mumbling going on there and I can't kind of hear everything, but did you say something about practicals need to be reset?
Not reset, some of the forms, some of the practical forms the schools are using, for example, finger waving. It's no longer a requirement on a practical. I'm just using that as an example.
I know that.
Only because it changed. They fix these and these, yes.
When
You
did
would-
that get changed?
Written in a requirement.
Yeah.
If Curry wants to do a practical and half
Yeah.
finger waving, she can.
Yes, and it's absolutely, you can add whatever you want to a practical, but the minimum requirements are this, and you can add this.
There are no minimum requirements.
Okay, not anymore.
Not in the
Same
rules.
with, right,
That's what you have to follow.
okay.
The guide.
In
that
the
a licensee
rules, there's no guidelines for
supervisor
practicals
have to follow.
any longer, yeah.
What?
Only do what I can do, and I can tell you that they don't have a guide to follow.
This is Carrie. I'd like some clarification on your guys' topic of discussion, please.
Go ahead, Sammy.
No, I don't know. We were on, the provisional, page 29.
34.
Page 34, yes.
On B,
Big B.
yes.
Board approved medical examination. Oh, what, Tammy?
Cindy and I would like to know, this is Tammy, did you just say that there are no parameters around practical exams? Cause I
said it in your rules. There are no parameters.
Right, so I thought that it was in there that we're still supposed to follow the old heck things.
So we can do whatever we
Practicals.
want, we can have them do like the tush push or
To
something.
my knowledge, it's never been in.
It's so odd. Line dancing, I mean, what is this?
To my knowledge, it's never been used in our rules. I'm not in charge of heck. But there's nothing pointing saying this is the practical that you have practiced.
Karen's got her hand up.
Here's heck.
Next right here.
Go ahead,
Hi,
Karen.
the only thing I would add, just to try to help clarify, is that when the minimum requirements were changed and went into effect in 2019, I know a long time ago, HEC did not have the capacity for any things that were removed, like from the requirements. We didn't have the capacity to change, like the practical. And what there had been an agreement, I believe, it still stands, that schools did not have to test on those items that were no longer part of the minimum requirements, and that HLO would accept the practical form. And if that item, let's just say the finger waving, was no longer part of the minimum requirements, you could submit that without finger wave. But I would also, and so that's how it's been for all these years. Unfortunate, but that's how it's been. And I would confirm that schools can do more than the minimum. But in terms of just the minimum requirements, if something is on that practical that is being used now that is not in the minimum requirements, there was an agreement with HLO that schools did not have to test on that section.
Right,
So
but
that's
remember, Karen, HEC never had authority over the practical exam. So HEC wasn't requiring it.
right.
So we would never actually agree to that. We agreed that we wouldn't change the curriculum that HEC had in 2019 that moved over in to Senate Bill 270. The practical curriculum was agreed upon. Right?
In any event, there wasn't the capacity to change those documents at that time.
So this is Carrie. Quick question. Does that mean that we don't have to do a relaxer application as part of practicals? Crickets. So you're saying that we could remove finger waves or a relaxer application as part of practicals. It's just we have to have it written in what we do as a school. It has to be written what we do for practicals, but we don't have to have that in our practicals.
Is she correct? I don't know.
This is Tammy. Cindy and I were at the meetings where we redid all those curriculums.
Yes, we did, every
And those
practical.
were in there. I don't know. what-
They were done.
But because it's in there and because it's required, it's different. HLO and the board has always had the authority of the practical. For whatever reason, at some point, HEC started, because it was in the school, we were allowing it to be in the school. It was still a board approved.
Okay, but my question is has the requirements changed from when we did all those meetings, where we redid all those curriculums? So we're still doing the same things.
My understanding is those aren't part of the curriculum, but like it's not in the rule for curriculum. If you were to read the rule about the curriculum, isn't in there. Nothing about the practical is in there. That help.
It was written out at the same time that HLO no longer had the authority to go in and do practicals or oversee the practicals, correct?
I don't know.
We're still doing practice.
Schools are still doing practicals, still sending in on the transcripts as the practicals are completed.
Yeah.
The form itself, there's just a couple things on the form that needs to be taken out, and one was finger waving. Chemical relaxer was never part of being taken out.
No.
There was some on barbering and on finger waving on hair. But the rest of it still the same.
Okay, so I didn't understand what you were saying, so that's why I was asking for clarification. I was like, wait a minute.
Who does oversee?
Works always
Okay, that's what I thought. I was just getting
And we've
confused. I
talked,
didn't hear you.
we talked about this where if you were to put specific parameters around a practical and the school doesn't meet that practical that's given that exam, we're shutting the doors of the school. You see where there becomes conflict now? So that's where I'm like, some of this gets dicey and that hasn't even worked out yet. Or we're not gonna accept let me take that back. We're not gonna accept a transcript from that school because they're not meeting the board's approved practical. Are you feeling me now?
But I thought that was a thing,
That is not.
Tina has come out and observed practicals in my school before, so that to make sure we were doing them correctly. So we're not doing that anymore.
No,
We do not go out anymore.
and I don't know why that's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's nice.
They're not what are we not accepting those transcripts? Oh, no. Oh, no, we don't wanna do that. You can't have both, so I don't.
So are you saying there should not be any parameters around?
I think that you need to tell them. Is it a piece of paper that is
Yeah,
somewhere?
there's a piece of, we have practicals that need to be updated, that were starting to be updated before Cynthia passed. That there was only a few things that needed to be taken out of the current practical forms that you guys use at school.
So we are still using the old forms from HEC.
Most of the schools that are sending them to us, when somebody has to go take a practical at a school, is still the old forms. They either put something different in the line where, finger wave, and put something different in there that either was added to the practical. So those practical forms, all I was saying before this discussion started is that we just need to look at those forms and take out the things that weren't on them.
But there does, I think, need to be, like with electrology, there's a, I can't remember the name of the document. It's like a, whatever.
So, okay, this is Carrie again. Weird. But we have been told this since we redid all of these was that 2019? We were told these practicals were going to be updated. They haven't been done. You can't even buy relaxers anymore. They're not supplied anymore. So,
Right? We have forms. We have forms. And then
so
there.
are we able to adapt our practicals to what is utilized within our school?
What'd you say, Carrie?
Are we able to update our practicals and utilize what we do in our schools? Meaning, we don't have a relaxer service because our manufacturer doesn't make relaxers anymore, but we have to do them for practicals.
So use the mock product. Because
Right.
do they sell chemical relaxers? Just because you don't have them in your school doesn't mean that chemical relaxers are still not out there. Right?
So our relaxer, this is Megan. Our relaxer, is that service required or like for the state board test for the practicals? Is that something that they have to show proficiency in the practicals for to get their license?
Yes.
Yeah, to graduate from the school, it's part of their practical. So Carrie, you're telling me that the chemical relaxer by the product that you use in your school, there is no longer a chemical relaxer, correct?
Correct.
But there are chemical relaxers on the market. And your students do know how, you do teach them how to do a chemical relaxer, correct?
Absolutely. Yep. They go
Okay.
through that through
So-
chemical training and everything. Yes.
So you use a mock product on a mannequin or a human doing a chemical relaxer, and that could be shaving cream. What else have you guys?
Gel or
Gel, any
Which
of
is
that.
absolutely what we do. But what you guys were mentioning is that we could we had the discretion to take these things out like finger waves and pin curls. So if we have the option to take out finger waves and pin curls, do we have the option to take out
No.
the application of a relaxer?
No, because in the curriculum, it's still in the curriculum. It's
So
what was.
so are finger waves and pin curls.
No, they're still there. They're still there.
They're within our curriculum of Milady.
The finger waves are not part of the practical. Right?
Right, they took that away.
Yeah, they took it out.
This is Megan. So you're saying that you wouldn't necessarily have to do it as a procedure, but you still have to have the education on it?
Correct. And you would have to do it as a procedure in the practical.
So what is it? This is Carrie again. So what's the timeline that these practicals are going to be reviewed?
Me and Derek can sit down this next week and look at them.
This is Megan. So you do have to do it as procedure, like relaxers and whatnot, but so you don't have to do finger waves though, because that's been taken out. So you don't have to do that as a procedure because it's not required for state board.
Correct. What, Cindy?
I want to say it's still in curriculum, but it's not as practical. Yeah.
It's not a requirement.
Right, right.
Okay, and so you want count 34, which is page 34.
Oh, that, yeah, we're at the bottom talking about that. We'll be on to 535. Exactly. It's a single thing.
Okay, I think we maybe don't deal with the box today. This could be for another.
Okay, we'll say that, okay.
It's too late today.
And I did see, in here retained documentation between that. It says education for at least 5 years. Over on 3rd floor, did you see that, Sandra? Oh, that's prior training and education.
Page 34.
It's
Oh, yes.
above and below that gray box. Is that like if they stop and we're gonna send it to you, is that what that's talking about? Or not me, but the people.
A much longer rule that you have to previous page 4. School must. So that is something, that's a different pathway.
Pathway 3.
Right.
Oh, okay.
And there's some statutory musts that school has to do.
Okay. Slash that question.
So page 37, I just threw in here written retakes. People can retake it 15 times. Where they go back to the old. Yay. And they do go that many times. It is true.
Why is it different than this one? Why is it different than the 10 times?
10 times changing.
Oh, is it gonna change?
Oh, you got 15 on this one.
What's the question?
I was just wondering why, they get 15 times, not that they shouldn't be close to that, but
Because they go to the board so much stuff we can 10. And it's every time. 11. Well. And they're the board, I mean.
but isn't it still for a student, a school's person 10 times and then they have to?
This would be, it would change to 15. It's a
That's
proposal.
perfect. Okay, thank you. Thank you, that's what I wasn't following.
And there's some other language I have to talk to Derek about here. So this was like the bare bones. There could be other stuff added, which I'll bring to you in a different thing. This is just the standard renewal, and all I had to do was add a provisional here.
This is Megan. So we haven't gotten into what procedures are required for like nails, like to do the nails certificate, right?
No.
Just barbering.
We can't get past barbering.
We're getting so close.
We're saying past barbering, and then we flying. And we are on pause in the dormant status, we still have to figure that out. Is it really necessary to limit the renewals? Or is the active method expired? No. Or do they need a burn by now? There's so many questions in that. I'm not sure. The last one.
What page are you on?
I'm skipping right on along.
And the fees?
But you guys have nothing to say about HO's prerogative?
It's page 43.
Well. No.
It's $25.
I mean, you can make suggestions if you want different.
Are you gonna talk about?
Okay.
For once. Why is a provisional certificate $25? That seems so cheap compared to everything else.
I just put the number on because I didn't know what, I thought I had heard him say that, but I didn't know. Good bill changes. Annually. So. Instead of every 2 years, it's every year.
Okay. Do you?
Look at the feedback.
Well, I just was surprised.
That is so
cheap.
I don't
It just, I would say 50. I mean, I just think it's pretty, compared to everything else, it seems inexpensive. Are they paying extra for an application or is that just $25?
No, their application fee.
Yeah, their application fee, 25.
So it'll be 50 and then they'll just pay 25 each.
This
year.
is Megan. They'll still have to pay for their exams and licenses, right?
Yeah. Never. Just seemed not very much for a plan, but so I open up to charge them $30. The same for a practitioner certificate. The provisional certificate would be the same. $30.
That's the.
Hold it out there.
That's the application fee.
It's
Right.
30, isn't it?
It's more than 60, 35 and then
35 for the
65. 45 and 65.
So are we looking at 50? Are we looking at 30? Are we looking at, well, help me out here. I just keep throwing money against the wall.
The 30, yeah. So the practitioner certificate on A, big A, is $30 for field of practice. On H, it's 25. So if you're wanting to raise it up, if we take it from 25 to 30, as in big A.
That's an application.
That's the application.
Yeah.
Those are
Correct.
just application fees. The license fees are 45 for barbering.
So if we had $30 on the front page, as we did on big A, and we have $45 on F on 44, it would be in line with the practitioner certificate, or 35, excuse me, not 45, 35. So that would go up to $60, $70.
Yeah.
I think that is.
Or
reasonable.
65.
That
Yeah.
makes sense.
So
These guys are learners.
So I was taking into consideration that they're probably making, barely making, maybe, I don't know. You know, plus they're not working full-time possibly. Just trying to take everything into consideration and make it a reasonable.
Sounds good.
You have to talk so everybody can hear you scold me.
I want to scold you quietly. Yeah, but it's like, it's $15 to make it even with what everybody else is paying. I mean, it say 25, either way, I don't really have a dog in this. We thought it just seemed less than everything else.
All right. So I'll move that up to
30 and
35.
35, and
Okay.
it's just equal with everybody else.
Okay.
I would agree.
Then what about the renewal? Do you want the renewals to go up as well, or the renewal then drops down?
I would think the renewal would just be 30 then, is that right, or? Well, I don't know.
No, you
Is it
charge a
35?
payment amount.
Yeah.
I'm not finding.
35.
Renewal at?
It's
There is-
big E on page 44, towards the bottom.
Oh, okay.
35.
Okay, you get from 25 to 35 for renewal?
That's more than a practitioner pays. They're gonna be paying 70, a practitioner will be 65 for 2 years. These guys are gonna pay 70 for 2 years.
Pay more.
Yeah.
Every year instead of.
Annually. In.
So we get 30 then.
Yeah.
It's $5.
My eyes almost got stuck in the top.
22.
So it's 30 to cost.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Oh, wow. Okay. Thank you. Now we're on page 46. I can see it.
Yeah, probably did. Well, we got to touch on this for a while.
Yeah.
No, it's not really needs, you know, I know, but I know. I mean, this is what I, this is no, it's.
You said it wasn't my case.
We're on 46 now.
Yeah. Yes. One of the workshop that I did.
Okay.
And there it's fine. No. Yeah. Hold on. It's done. Number one. Everything on there. Done. Gosh, did I? No, but I asked him to review it. Page 53.
We're going to 53?
Yeah, page 53.
Can I mention one thing before we move there? On page 47, I know this may seem young to some people, but can we change it from a general rule of thumb to a general guideline? Because the rule of thumb comes with some interest and background. So can we like just make that?
Where are you at on page 47?
47, the underlined things.
Oh.
Can we just say guideline, general guideline?
This is Derek's documents. Derek, are you still on?
Yep, I'm here.
Somehow these got out of order. And I did it. Okay, I don't know where they go. I think they go, oh, I think it's here. Wait. I don't know. So we're on page 53. Okay, 53. Yeah, you're not figure out what 47 or 46. Right. Garbage. Please, that's from the last meeting. I forgot to get rid of them. So this is the training packet, what they would get.
So you'll want to change the second paragraph about the supervision not required during theory instruction. You want to put that?
Yeah, all this would be updated with the new.
Okay.
Although I don't know how many times he wants to update this.
Okay. To be
Depending on
determined.
how many times you guys change stuff, so him and I can talk about that. Yeah, but we would update all this, we'd have the 40-hour piece back in here somehow. But kind of the general layout, I think, is what we're asking about. Yeah, 55 all the training resources, the books. And then it goes into the breakdown of anatomy and physiology. Goes into histology of the stuff in here. histology of the skin, DVD, all the dots. All the Cerinthians, 1.1.1, 1.1, 1.3. But in some cases, they're changed tools. So this is like gonna tell the supervisor what to be teaching. They're not right. Is that right, Derek? Am I on the right path?
Yep, that's correct. So basically, it's a copy and paste from the current curriculum, and it's going to give the supervisor and the trainee a general guideline of what should be taught.
But you're saying you guys are changing this part of it, or this is good? Page 56 and beyond is where you're at, or you're changing it?
No, I mean, we're only changing what you guys have asked us.
54 and 55 is where you were gonna change some stuff, right? Okay. Thank you.
This is Derek. So do we want to go through these forms real quick, or?
It's up to you guys. I guess maybe some of the more important parts of the form that I know there's been lots of questions about,
Okay.
not the copy paste part. But when you get to page 67. This is the application for provisional application. And this is kind of, which this will, like how to, what they have to show us for 15 months will be changed on here. Yeah. Not very.
Yeah, so this is Derek again. So most of on page 67 through 69, that's pretty much all standard boilerplate language that's used on all of our applications. And then on page 70 is where it's going to outline the specific requirements that someone needs to provide to us to get that provisional certificate holder.
So that's where we would change the requirements.
And this
or
is
like a copy of electric or water or gas, whatever.
And on page 70, this is the application requirement for the provision holder, not the supervisor.
Correct.
Page 72 is the declaration of responsibility, which is attached right there to the provisional, normally.
Yes, it'll be attached to the application itself, so they'll have it right there.
So this is Pam. Page 70 looks like that could be for both the provisional application holder and the supervisor, but then the supervisor only does 72. They
And
only
it's
do
in the
72.
application. They
Yes, for their application, they're only doing page 72.
Provisional training supervisor declaration.
Yeah, that's just the declaration of responsibility. That's not the.
I know. Yeah, this is supervisor.
Okay, so 72 is the supervisor. Okay, right.
I have a question. This is Tammy. Are they getting their approval before the applicant for the provisional fills that out?
No, everything will be filled out, mailed in. We'll do the research on it and then notify them that they are good to go with training and issue a license.
And like you're gonna check the 5 years here.
Yeah, 5 years will be
Say anything on
checked.
cover, like, all the requirements that the supervisor has to be.
Yeah, so that will have to be changed.
So, this is Tammy again. So if, let's say Sally goes and wants to do a provisional, puts in for Sammy to be the supervisor. Janet comes along and wants Sammy as well.
That's to fill out a whole new.
The
form,
whole new form already.
Just for supervisor.
Okay.
Operation.
Sammy won't be in the database and say approved for any, the 4 people or whatever.
That's a great question, I don't know.
We'll have to put it somewhere, whoever's supervising the individual.
I would think you would attach supervisor.
Yeah.
To the position.
Well, yeah, I think it's, but then I'm still. Do you remember?
Can you search?
Can't hear.
No. Oh, yeah, I see what you mean. Oh, well, the other boards, the supervisors are put on the website. That's how supervisors are put. We don't attach them.
Maybe we do that in a leaf the way that we do.
Oh, yeah, we can.
Accessibility with a independent contractor sort of thing. Somehow connect them in a leaf.
Yeah, sure. Well, we could, yeah, talk to Nathan about adding something to connect the supervisor.
Rather than, Tammy, rather than having to approve every single time somebody wants that supervisor, if they were pre-approved, then.
Oh, maybe there's like a box.
So under your supervisor information or the qualifications requirement, if you add one more line there and you put number of provisional holders under their preview, 1, 2, 3, 4. Couldn't it keep track of it that way?
No, they'll fill out a new one of these for everybody that they're supervising.
But we were talking earlier about being able to document that or verify that they're not taking 10 as opposed to just 4, right?
Correct. We have files. We do the same thing with let's see. We have supervisors now that
Oh, it's a good thing? It's okay? Okay. I was worried.
But on this is Tammy, on the other side of that coin, if you are supervising for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and 4 different Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
I mean, that's
True. Well, just don't supervise over 4 each day.
That's
And
what I'm
you'll be
saying.
in line with the rule.
Yeah.
And just have a whole bunch, I think you need to be able to attach
Yes,
supervisor.
we'll have to talk to our person and attach them.
Training more than 4.
Okay, so we're gonna put on here attach somehow.
Attach.
We'll figure it out.
So when the supervisor is applying for their position, if you have an area there for them to write down how many provision holders they have at that time, that takes the onus off you and puts it on them. That they would clarify who they're working with, and if you see more than 4.
Good idea.
Okay, I'm full of them.
Good.
Just
So what if at the time they don't have,
Pardon me?
if at the time they don't have 4,
Yes.
and now, 2 months later, they do have 4.
Yeah, so it's not always gonna, so that's, we'll figure it out.
This is Karen. Did you show an application for the supervisor?
It's in the provisional application. There's a supervisor form. That's
72.
72, yeah.
Page 72. Okay, thank you.
Declaration of responsibility as a supervisor over the provisional.
This is Derek. Karen, to answer your question, we don't have a specific supervisor, I guess, registration application yet. So basically, once we have that developed, someone who wants to be a supervisor would complete that application, submit it to us, and then once the trainee wants to start training, then they would also complete that declaration of responsibility, indicating that the supervisor's already completed the requirements and application to be a supervisor.
This is Megan. So you can apply to be a supervisor without anyone applying to be to get a certificate yet?
Yes.
Correct.
And you would be put on our website, isn't it true that we have body piercing supervisors on our website? We would have professional cosmetologist supervisors on our website.
We have electrology.
I think electrology's on.
And then anybody could see it. And you might get lots of phone calls.
Oh, and then training, 75 is the certification training form. This is what they'll submit when the person's all done, or if the person, quits for whatever reason, or the supervisor loses the profession, or this is what they'll provide HLO. Yeah. Whether they finish the program or not.
This is Megan. So if you have more than one supervisor, will the person trying to get the certification put both people as their supervisors, or only one, or do they need all that info?
One primary, but we would have to have on file all the supervisors.
So
Otherwise, we wouldn't count the hours.
the training submitted would be by the primary. So if you have two supervisors in a salon, you've got one primary supervisor. That supervisor is going to be the one to submit the certificate of training.
So the primary supervisor would have to be there for all training of that, or they wouldn't be able to use the other supervisor for any hours or procedures?
No, primary supervisor just means they're basically gonna be in charge of the records.
Yeah.
Yes.
Making sure that they've got somebody over here in this facility and that facility for Jane, the primary person is gonna get all Jane's records in a little file. That's really all the primary person's doing. Everybody can still supervise,
still document
the primary just
procedures. Yeah.
So if it says that the supervisor, like direct supervision, that doesn't have to be by the primary person, it can be by another supervisor?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So this is Tammy. On page 76, you have practical knowledge exam. So what is your goal with this? So are you saying if they test on 6 things, maybe they do a haircut, a beard trim, skin treatment, whatever it is, let's say they do 5 things, are you gonna say, take those scores and divide it by 5 and get us 1 score, or are you, what is your plan here? Cause this is.
What do you mean?
This is training, date, practical barbering, date completed in the score. So barbering is, when you do a practical exam, you typically do for hair, you do a wet set, you do a perm wrap, you do a haircut, you do a style, you do shampoo, and then so you have all of those. Are you thinking you're gonna take all of those, add them up and divide them by the number and add to your score? What is your thinking on this?
How do you guys do it now?
Well, each section gets that's how I basically how I do it. I do all the hair. If there's 10 things, I add them together and divide it by 10 and gets a global score. But I keep all the records for everything they do in a file. Or if there's ever a question of how much, what they score on a haircut, you can, I can pull that out and show it to you.
Correct.
I'm just wondering, is that what the plan is?
So if they fail in one subject and pass in another, the global score.
No, they have to pass everyone
Everything.
before they get a score. So everybody has to get at least a 75, or they have to keep taking it over until they pass. And then then I do a global score for all of them after they pass their.
Correct.
But I just wondered if, because I don't see anything for a knowledge test in here either. So, theory hours, but no. Because I also do baby boards where they take an exam on every single thing they learned while they were in school. But finals, yeah.
Well, our transcripts are great.
They do, but it's the same thing, like all the hair get added together and divided for one score.
Right,
But
I
they
see
still,
that here.
yeah, so I'm saying there's no knowledge test score on here either, so I didn't know if you're just asking that they do the hours and they do the practicals, or what is the idea?
What about, on page, 75, taking the completed theory hours and put completed theory / competency
Well, it
hours?
could be under one of these others, it could be practical, then, their final exams.
Well, it can just be added.
A knowledge
But
exam.
Derek, can you make a note of that for us to discuss that
Yes.
for the written part?
Yep. And just to let you know, this is just a placeholder. We can design it any way you want. We just haven't specifically talked about passing theory exams yet, so I didn't develop anything on that.
And this is Tammy, one last thing, and I'll be quiet, I promise, but I find that, like, when they take their final exams, their baby boards is what I call them, that really gives them a really good roadmap to what they need to study.
Yeah.
And they can take them over if they don't pass them, and oftentimes they don't, because it's a lot, it's, almost a year and a half that they've been studying all this stuff. But that really gives them a roadmap of where they're at in their education.
Yeah.
Whether they're gonna pass the state board or not.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I do think it's important.
So if you took the practical knowledge exam and you just, broke it down. So instead of having the Barber score just as one line item, if you made a couple of line items there, is that?
We don't think it's practical.
They don't need it.
Yeah, we don't
You're
have
not
to
worried
do
about the
that.
practical, you're only worried about the written?
I think that the written.
The written has to be on there too.
Just an added
And
piece.
it could be a one score as well. It could be one score, but.
Plus Oregon non-approved.
Yeah.
They're separate.
Or your mom, you're right. You're right.
Weird.
Now the tracking points.
So remember when I couldn't remember on practicals, this is Tina, what was taken out? I went and grabbed a practical. And now I remember on nail technology, the wrap.
Oh, I still do that too.
Oh, yeah, it was taken.
It was
I
taken.
still do it, so I can't.
Yeah, because you still have to take them in your school, and it's on the transcript and the practical. You don't have to. And the finger waving was on Barbary. And it's still on the transcript. On the practical.
In the transcript.
I mean, the practical transcript.
Oh, okay.
If you have to redo, then it's on that, but the ones that, the stuff we turn in doesn't have it on there out particular, but on the one, if you're doing somebody's makeup thing so they can retest, then I found that interesting. The form is different than what.
Yeah.
This is Karen. Let me say first, I'm having a problem with my internet. It's going in and out, so if I drop off, I apologize. But on page 76, where it talks about if you've already had Oregon laws and rules and career development, you don't have to do it again. Is there specification as to what documentation needs to be provided to document they already completed that somewhere
Well,
else?
Currently, if a transcript comes in to us and somebody comes in to take nails out of a hair facial hair program, a hair and aesthetics program and nails, they'll come in and do nails. It's already noted in our system that they've already taken it. So when they go back to finish their hair or aesthetics, on the next transcript that comes in, it does not have those hours on it.
But how would the supervisor there, maybe they didn't provide that training in nails to the person they're providing barbering. Would the person simply need to provide a copy of this document to the supervisor? Hey, I already did these two.
Okay, I think what Karen was asking is if somebody comes back to do future training under this provisional license, and they've already done career development and laws and rules training, they don't have to do it again, but she's saying, do they have to show it on something?
Well, there's
saying.
couple things. Earlier, you guys talked about if somebody stops doing the training, supervision ends, supervisor leaves, they have to give that, whatever the completion of that person to HLO to keep on file. So that will be noted there. They did career development. As far as,
well, you guys take it.
Maybe
I get that it's on file at HLO, but if someone just goes to another provider and says, well, I already had these two.
Oh, the supervisor can call HLO.
Okay.
And get the document.
Yeah.
Are you saying what if HLO doesn't have the document?
How to prove it up.
No, I was just wondering what needs to be provided to the supervisor to document that, yes, indeed, they already had this training. And the answer was if a student or someone comes to you and says that, then the supervisor needs to contact HLO to verify, yes, they have it. Correct?
I mean,
Correct.
hopefully, I would hope that supervisor provided that student whatever the completion was as well, and they could say, here's what I have, HLO should also have it.
Yeah.
But if you were already certified in nails, let's say you go
Oh,
a new place, HLO would know that because you already got licensed. And even if you showed your license, that would prove up that you already have it, because you only gotta do it once. So.
This is Megan. So if someone does one program, one pathway, does the hours that are needed for certain theory things also transfer into other pathways if they choose to do more than one? Like safety and sanitation, is the required hours for one pathway going to be counted all across the board, or are they going to need to do more hours of the same thing that they already did?
for another day, I think.
I think everybody's mind is kind of boggled, but if somebody was licensed here for hair and they went back to take barbering at a school, a lot of those hours are gonna transfer over.
But the school assesses that.
Right, I know, but if we gave them
So I think, I think it's the assessment piece maybe.
yeah.
But then I think you'll also have to think about what if somebody goes from a school for training, how is that supervisor going to assess with the school?
Right.
Okay, so those are things I'll think
And
about.
vice versa.
Yeah.
How is the school going to evaluate someone who did something in this program?
They'll get a certificate of training. The school will.
Well,
This is Megan. So the equivalent of transcripts from a school is the certification thing that we have to fill out like as a supervisor.
Correct.
This is Derek, and just to clarify, The goal behind that certificate of training was to make it as close to the current COS transcript as possible. That way, when transferring hours, it would be pretty much a straight across, straightforward process.
So this is Karen. I would just say our rules for schools talk about transcripts. So I don't know. I think we would want to look at that to see if we need any revision to ensure transferability of this certificate. Because you're not calling it a transcript, right?
Correct. Yeah, it's not a transcript because it's not an official school the person's getting trained from.
Do textbooks say that a school can transfer in hours to another school based on a transcript? Does rules say that?
Yeah, like it says, a school has to receive an official transcript. And even though they might accept that, they're not going to deny the hours from an official transcript, but a school might determine on their own that those hours, 100 of those hours don't transfer hour for hour to what that school is doing. So the school might require something additional offered, the way the school does it. So a person might end up with more hours. So I don't know. I just think if that's the intent, that it be accepted by schools, our agency will want to look through that.
So Karen, halfway free under non-credentialed, you guys don't look at that anymore. That's through us and it's sent to, they take their information to a school. They don't. So, I mean, this could be
same as that.
Same as that.
It's similar. Yeah, it could be. And yeah, but the non-credentialed is a separate pathway. So I mean, I suppose you could.
This is a different pathway too. It's pathway 4.
Well, right, but I'm just saying those provisions that say they would take their training and education, have a school evaluate it, I think you would need to write that same kind of thing into this rule for this pathway.
Well, on page
And
35.
then that kind of.
In the box, we
I'm
didn't
sorry.
go over that because I was thinking it was getting too late, but all of those questions are in this box. Like, how do these both transfer from one to the other, which we didn't answer today. But they are here. I'm going to read in public comment. At this time, the Cosmetology Qualifications Rules Advisory Committee, Joint Committee will hear public and interested parties' feedback. Public comment is limited to matters listed on the meeting agenda or topics relevant to what this committee has statutory authority to regulate. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes and will be called on by HLO staff. HLO staff will request to refer to themselves. HLO reserves the right to end the person's comment early and HLO staff leave the public in the right. If the comment does not pertain to matters listed on the meeting agenda or topics relevant to what this committee has statutory authority to regulate. Are there any members of the public who wish to comment? Any hands? Anyone? Are there any members of the public that wish to comment? Hearing none. Qualification Committee Rules Advisory Committee meeting is adjourned at 2:04 p.m. Next meeting date is April. April 22nd. And then we have another one May 4th. May the 4th be with you. Yeah. 22nd, May 4th.